And good morning. It is a Friday edition of GCR. I am Glenn. He is Griffin. If it's a Friday, that means this man to my right is none other than PressBox's chief Grand Prix boss, Stan Charles.
Good morning, good morning.
So we're not firing Griffin? No,
that plan is in, abeyance.
Okay. All right. Hey, Griffin, it's good to see you, buddy.
I guess that's good. That sounds like good news.
I was running.
It's a show of support.
Correct. Just want you to know that. I was running a bit late this morning as a shout out to Delaney Valley Road / Jarrettsville Pike. Where I don't know, what is the time at which, when you've been sitting somewhere and not moving, how many minutes before you say, this is a problem, I need to figure out if I have to
About 60 seconds.
You're very quick. I'm
about 4 minutes.
I think 4 to 5 minutes is about the correct number, where you're like, okay, things happen. There might be, like one lane road. Right. But
School bus.
When you hit the 5-minute mark, you say, okay, there's a real problem here. I got to figure out what's going on. And I don't know how you are, Stan. Like, I always admonish myself. The easiest thing we can do now as humans is, no matter where we're going, we can pull out our little app, whatever you use, right. Google Maps, Waze, whatever it is, and figure out if there's traffic or not. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. But if you drive somewhere constantly, you don't feel the need to pull out your Waze and figure out where you're supposed to go. You know exactly where you're going. Yep. And especially for me, I don't even get on a highway anymore to come to the office. It's all, back roads, if you will, or Delaney Valley, roads like that. So I never do it. And I always, whenever I end up in a...
That's not because of that search warrant from the FBI?
Oh, no, I don't want anybody to know where I am. Okay. That's correct. I've totally gone off the grid entirely. That's the way that it goes. No, so I had a little bit of a situation, and I just texted the guys and said, hey, there's a chance that I might be, pushing...
We were ready.
Probably would have been better. Let's be honest. It probably would have been better.
No.
I have no doubt that.
Don't kid yourself. It wouldn't have been.
But Stan did acknowledge that if he had to do the show with just Griffin for any longer, there was a chance that there might not be a Griffin anymore.
Yeah.
That just might work that way.
Well, I appreciate
Which is weird, because everybody told me you got along fine the week that I was gone.
I love the guy.
Yeah,
He's just incompetent. That's
what?
all.
Jeez.
That doesn't mean I don't like him.
Well, I'm glad you made it here on time.
On a personal level. On a personal level.
Love the guy, and he does a great job.
Yeah, right. And
he works for food.
He
works for food and Royal Farm gift cards.
I have offered to work for, depending on what the food is. Yeah. I might be willing to work for food. I had a very weird situation last week where I threw a little event at my house. Yeah. And not only did Griffin show up, but Kyle Ottenheimer showed up.
Oh my God!
And
how about Paul Valley?
No, Paul did not make it to the event. But Griffin and Kyle showed up. And there was an awkward moment where I felt like Kyle was trying to get me to say that I liked him better. I felt like there was a moment where...
Is that kind of... Because he is so delicate with things like that. Is that kind of like when he came out and said, who do you like better?
I don't remember if it was that... I just remember there being a moment where Kyle kind of... I walked into the house to pee.
Kyle's like, how's Griffin doing?
Kyle, and I swear to God, he walked in right behind me.
In the bathroom.
In the bathroom, yeah. He walked into the house right behind me. And first of all, as everybody knows, I love Kyle. I miss Kyle. He's a very sweet.
He got the show off the road.
I mean, this would never have happened if not for a commitment from Kyle when it was just a vision. We didn't even have a partnership with PressBox at the time.
Right.
Kyle Kyle had been with Stan and as an intern, and we both happened to be over at Channel 2 one night. Kyle worked at Channel 2. And I was over doing Stan's show when I was trying to figure out what would happen in the aftermath of the old radio station going under. And I had said, hey, I've got this idea for something. And Kyle, who I literally had met that night, was very excited about it and said, can we get together for breakfast one day next week and talk about it more? And I said, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to talk about it.
He was gung-ho. I mean, he really wanted to pursue that.
He was gung-ho. And without him, this would have never this never would have happened. There's no chance. So I love Kyle, but it definitely came off a little bit like he was trying, like it was the old girlfriend, new girlfriend situation, like who's prettier.
He was trying to seduce you?
A little bit, yeah. There was a little bit of that going on. So that was fun. All right, a lot to do on the program today. It is Friday, so we will catch up with Bo Smolka, PressBox Ravens beat writer. Speaking of the Ravens, they practiced against the Commanders this week and will play against the Commanders on Monday night. Baltimore native.
Do we practice against them on Sunday, or
they practiced on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week? Yeah, Tuesday and Wednesday they practiced against each other, yes. Baltimore native Kendall Fuller will join the program today, of course, Commanders cornerback. And, boy, has Kendall been in the league for 10 years now? It feels like it's unbelievable.
He's a grizzled vet.
I got to think at this point of all of the Fuller brothers, is he had the longest career of that group? I'm going to put you in charge of that. And of course, 4 Fuller brothers that all made the NFL.
Really?
It's one of the great, local sports stories to me of all time. It's four brothers, all who grew up here, all made the NFL.
It's a story now, full of the Fullers.
We should think about that, right, at some point.
Full F-U-L-L.
Of course, Kyle is the only one that played for the Ravens, and unfortunately it was for like a game before he got hurt last season, although we'll see. They might need some more help still. But we'll catch up with Kendall later on in the show, and we'll make a trip to Delmarva to catch up with Matthew Etzel as well this morning. So a lot to do on the program today.
Is that Randy's son?
I made the same joke this week, Stan. You and I.
Spells it differently.
They definitely spell it differently. Stan, I was doing the radio show last night, and we ended up spending a little bit of time on this topic, and I want to run it by you. I am by no means trying to suggest panic, anything along those lines. But the Orioles on this trip have not scored 5 runs in one game. They, since the All-Star break, have been in the bottom 3 of all of Major League Baseball in on-base percentage. And, for example, this week, I think most people would be inclined to say, hey, look, they've ran into some really good starting pitching, right? They had to face Snell, Walker, and Darvish. It was Miller, Kirby, who was brilliant, and Castillo in Seattle.
Yep.
This is baseball. It's a West Coast swing. You don't overreact to anything. But on the flip side, given that there's only really been 2 guys that have consistently produced since the All-Star break, Mountcastle and McCann, of all people, do you worry at all about a young team that has largely not very few of these guys have ever been in this position before, playing super important games this deep into the season, pitchers that perhaps have adjusted a little bit, the young players, and maybe them hitting a little bit of a wall at the moment?
Do I worry about it? I mean, look, one of the things that impressed me in talking to several members of the 1983 team a couple weeks back was I asked they brought in like 3 or 4 of them at a time. Yeah. And I asked the first group, it was Al Bunbury was part of the group, and Shelby, and I forget who else was in that first foursome. But Bunbury sort of took over, and I said, I've always heard this story that the 83 team won because of the fact that they wanted to show up Earl Weaver. Have you ever heard that?
I have heard, and whether it's show up or
just show they could do it on their own, that he had always gotten so much of the credit. And
I've also had people tell me that it was just a different. Things were a bit more intense under Earl, and simply not dealing with that intensity helped them a little bit.
Right. But Al Bunbury dismissed that right away and said, no. The reason we won in 83 is we were still pissed off at 1979. Yep. The Orioles don't have that motivation of being pissed off or hungry for having just come close. Remember, the 83 team also made
lead.
That incredible run in 82, only to lose on final day of the season, Don Sutton versus Palmer. And that struck me, that hunger, how important that is. And I wonder if it's – I've wondered this the entire season. I think we're a dangerous team, but I wonder if, Gunnar Henderson in the next 2 years may be one of the best hitters in baseball. He's not one of the best hitters in baseball right now.
Right, he's an exciting player right now.
He's an exciting player. Yep. He has his moments. Adley has had plenty of moments, but he's receded a little bit. And Mountcastle, thank goodness, the way I was projecting Mountcastle, I didn't think he'd be on the team or contributing virtually at all at this point. and he's been phenomenal. But, yeah, there is a little bit of whether they've hit a wall, whether they're quite good enough right now. I mean, I think we know in 2 years Westberg and Cowser are both going to be really dynamic ball players. They're not, especially Cowser, isn't right now. And they've had a Cedric Mellons who's been playing and rehabbing at the same time for 6 weeks now,
Correct. And, again, has also provided the most significant moments of the season. But, yes, it's an awful lot to ask for someone who's not been able to sort of get into a groove.
I'm worried about it. I'm worried to an extent. I think from here to the next 15 days, the schedule that the Orioles have makes me feel pretty damn comfortable.
This, to me, and the way we were talking about it last night, Stan, was like this weekend will go a long way to answering that question for me. If they continue to struggle offensively against the Oakland Athletics, then I think there's a little bit more of a problem, and I'll start to lean more towards the idea that perhaps they're hitting a bit of a wall.
Right.
If this is just, again, the list of pitchers that I presented alone, I can understand playing on the West Coast, facing good pitchers. These things can happen within, in a vacuum. If that goes away this weekend and they look more like they did against the Mets, against the Athletics, then I think that we're all, all's good here.
Yeah.
But the bigger point.
I mean, remember, after that, we've got, the 3-game series against Toronto.
Correct.
Then
then
play
it's
Colorado and the White Sox.
Yes.
Then we have, then we, in short order in September, I know we've got St. Louis.
I'm pulling it up right now to make sure.
I know we go back out to Arizona and
we have
it's
that.
Colorado, then it's the White Sox, and then when you get into September, back to Arizona, then to Anaheim, then to the Red Sox before you come home for the Cardinals and the Rays. So there are opportunities there on the schedule where you feel like this team should be able to stockpile some wins and get a little bit more comfort and hopefully get going again.
Yeah,
but I feel
I'm also heartened by the fact that I don't root for teams to have injuries, but I don't feel sorry for the Tampa Bay Rays who are missing 3/5 of their starting rotation.
Yeah, and it looks like may never get Wander Franco back at this point, right?
Yeah, I forgot about that.
It looks like that. Some of these reports this week are suggesting that it just.
Is this as bad as the guy that was with the Pirates a couple of years ago? The guy that they'd picked up from the Nationals, the left-handed reliever.
I'm trying to remember that guy's name now.
Well, he changed his name, and remember he changed. his name?
I vaguely remember. Look that up, Griffin. I vaguely remember this story. I had somebody.
He was an incredible left-handed reliever.
Felipe Vasquez, right? Is that
right? I think it was Felipe Vasquez, but he was something else. Why would he change his name?
It was because of perhaps the stories that might have been known about that person. Look, yes, certainly those things go a long way into making it seem like that the Orioles will have a clearer path towards winning the AL East, but they have to get going again. And the bigger point that you made is the reminder that as much as we're saying, hey, while the Orioles have never been the team that we thought was the favorite to win the World Series, they are here, right? Might as well once you're here. The reality is this just typically isn't what happens with teams that break through the first time that are young and have built this way. Teams usually go and have to get a little more battle-tested and have to take some bruises and lose in the playoffs and learn from the adversity and learn what it's like to play sheerly this number of games in a baseball season that a lot of these players have almost never done in their life. Adley Rutschman has never played 170-some games in a baseball season.
Right.
That hasn't happened. So they've got to go through those things, and they learn from that, and then they build more towards it. So yeah, I will never say the Orioles can't win the World Series because –
the most disappointing development on the road trip was the performance by Jack Flaherty.
That was really
troubling. That was really like a bucket of cold ice water on your head.
I measured it against the excitement that you have about what you're seeing from Grayson Rodriguez and the belief that this is the guy that we were promised. Yeah. This is the guy that can be a top of the rotation pitcher and could be the first ace that we've had in Baltimore in since Messina, 100%. But right now, the difficult part about that is I don't know if he can be that guy in the playoffs because there's this innings thing. We can't pretend there's no way that this innings thing is going to be a factor. Maybe he'll push past it, and maybe he'll be that guy. But I'm conflicted by it, whereas the guys that you know have the innings in them are the two guys that just got their asses kicked in their last starts, both Flaherty and Gibson. Those are the guys right now that it would be most encouraging to see them pitching at their best late in the season because you know there's no wall for those guys. Like, you know, and they're also both kind of mercenaries, right? Like, you're going to pitch them till their arms fall off because they're not part of the long-term plans here.
Right.
So let them throw as many innings as possible. It's very frustrating and discouraging to see those guys get their ass kicked. And the worst-case scenario for Flaherty.
I'm not that worried about Gibson. I've followed Gibson's career closer than most in Baltimore because I had him at several times along the way on my fantasy
And have you
teams,
apologized to him for it?
I told him about the night that I told him, actually, I did apologize to him for ruining his no-hitter the other night in Baltimore. I said that I was the guy that brought up the no-hit pool in the press box.
Way to go, Stan.
And he go, oh, thanks.
Yeah,
thanks
right?
a lot for that.
Yeah.
But Gibson has had moments like this. Flaherty, I was hoping, had put those moments kind of behind him and was going to usher in a new era in his career. And that was an awful, awful performance.
Yeah, it was really discouraging. It was extraordinarily discouraging. And again, you keep trying to do the math of how do they innings their way to the finish line here? How do they handle all of these things? And I give them credit for going to the six-man rotation, for trying to do what they did with Tyler Wells when they acknowledged he was hitting a wall. We're not shutting him down. We're just trying to see if we can freshen him up a little bit and use him in some capacity.
What's the latest with them now? And DL Hall.
That one's even more confusing, right? Like that one, your guess is as good as mine as to what the thought process is with DL Hall. But you assume that, and I'll add one more. Can you pull up Adley Rutschman's splits as a catcher and as a DH? Because I've had a couple people bring them up to me this week, but I don't remember them off the top. But it is starting to get significantly noticeable how much better he's hitting when he DHs versus what he's hitting when he catches. And I'm starting to wonder if in September you don't use one of the extra roster spots on a third catcher to almost say at this point we kind of need, and part of this depends on if Brian McCann continues to hit the way that he's been. James McCann. I always do that.
Right. His OPS,
there should not be a law that no two catchers are allowed to have the same last name.
His OPS is 882 as a DH and then 754 as a catcher.
Significant.
And his slugging percentage is 512 as a DH.
And look, obviously part of it. What the sample? Give me the sample size of both.
So it is 138 plate appearances as a DH, 375 as a catcher.
So part of it is it's his third as many plate appearances, but of late I believe, and I don't know if you can dive further into that. Of late, I believe those numbers are getting more and more pronounced, the difference between him as a catcher and him as a DH. And I'm not trying to say shut down Adley Rutschman, the catcher, or never have him catch again or anything along those lines, but maybe given the offensive struggles of this team, at some point do you sort of say you're going to catch 2 days a week and 4 to 5 days a week you're going to be a DH, and if McCann continues to hit, that's just the best sort of scenario for this team at this point.
Well, I think McCann's clearly going to play catch against every left-hander we face, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, there's not that huge a drop-off, in my opinion, in the catching and throwing and calling of a game. The pitchers seem to be. I mean, do you want to have in the throwing aspect? I don't know that there's any drop-off. Yeah. But it's definitely an issue. But I would still think that Rutschman would probably catch 3 or 4 times a week, but it's interesting. It's interesting.
I'll add into that concept that doing this really would require you putting a third catcher on the roster, right? Like you can't. You run the risk of if something happens to McCann during the game, then you're going to end up losing your DH spot because you got to have Rutschman go behind the plate. It really.
I think though the problem with that is you're only going to get 2 more spots, right? It goes up to 28.
2 more. And we know that one of them is going to have to be a pitcher.
Yeah,
You have to have another pitcher on
feeling
this
both
team.
of them could be pitchers.
And I've thought that for some time. I know a lot of people have hoped that maybe Heston Kjerstad would get a look in September. I don't know that I see it. It's a different conversation that was brought up to me by John Miola the other night.
Yeah.
Like, well, they're going to be in the playoffs, Norfolk, and so it'd be one thing if Heston Kjerstad wasn't going to be playing in September, where they might say, like, hey, we'd rather have you continue to be playing and on a team. With Norfolk in the playoffs, I just don't know that they're going to be pressed to feel like they have to do that. And I also think it's extraordinary to think that a player like that will definitively give you a boost. Now, they did it with Gunnar last year, so it's not like there's no precedent for them trying something along those lines, but there was also an obvious place for Gunnar to play at that point a year ago. Like, there were obvious at-bats to be had.
Well, the at-bats weren't so precious that we were really in the hunt for a World Series. We were a dark horse to
get a playoff spot,
yeah.
right. So where would the at-bats be if you brought up Heston Kjerstad? Like, where I mean, you would have to kind of force it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he would DH some, I'm sure, or Santander would DH a little bit, or Mountcastle, but then you've got the O'Hearn situation.
Right.
Yeah, it's not an obvious path right now, other than if Hicks is hurt and out for the rest of the year.
Yeah, something
which
along those
isn't
lines.
the case right now.
No, so I just don't know that I see it. Again, I'm not trying to be overdramatic about it. I'm not trying to anything along those lines. It's just something that I have filed away that it's troublesome, the trends that we've seen offensively from this team since the All-Star break. Stan the Fan Charles is in studio with us. A reminder that we have partnered. Yeah, go
the
ahead.
real key guy that is just falling off the table now is
Austin Hayes. I want to come back to that in 1 second.
Austin Hayes was leading.
Let me tell everybody about Superbook real quick, and then we're going to talk about Austin Hayes.
Oh, you mean about Stan Charles 23?
Well, I was thinking Glenn Clark 23. I made some money on Superbook yesterday, betting some tennis. Had a nice little day betting tennis yesterday on Superbook.
Wait a minute, they're a sponsor of ours. You're supposed to lose.
Not I. I mean, if somebody else wants to lose to make up some money for him, by all means, I'm gonna be a winner. Superbook.com or the Superbook app. Download it right now. When you make your deposit, use the code GlennClark23, or if you're feeling charitable, StanCharles23. And then when you do, your first bet up to $250, you're going to get a match on that first bet, win or lose. Superbook.com. Download the Superbook app. Use the code GlennClark, GlenNClark, GlennClark23, or StanCharles23, and you will get that first bet match up to $250. The Austin Hayes thing is, it's depressing almost, because we all talked about this as he was having such a spectacular first half. We all found ourselves saying, hopefully he can prove this in the second half, that it won't be like a year ago. And so far, it's been worse than it was a year ago.
There's always an injury surrounding, and he had that 2 or 3 day thing again. I think it was a wrist or a hand. I forget what the injury was, but it started to plummet him. He was okay enough, apparently, to play in the All-Star game. But I'll point to the fact that the Texas Rangers let Nathan Eovaldi pitch an inning in the All-Star game, and they knew that his velocity was trending downward to begin with. He's been on the IL for 3.5, 4 weeks,
talked about it,
and he pitched in the All-Star game.
It felt like it was almost a gift to Austin Hayes that the Orioles didn't put him on the injured list, because they didn't want to ruin his
All-Star
opportunity to have an All-Star trip.
Yeah.
And while, yes, they activated him the Sunday beforehand, and they said, he was all good, my gut tells me that had there not been an All-Star game involved, he definitely would have been on the injured list at that point. This is tricky. Again, a year ago it was disappointing, and he was hitting about 220 post the All-Star break. You can double-check on this, Griffin. I'm pretty sure it's like 170.
Yes, he is, in the second half, he's batting 187.
187.
After a 314 first half.
So worse than a disappointing second half a year ago. And it further complicates not the now, but to me it further complicates, Stan, the long-term picture here, where presumably a year from now you're going to want Colton Cowser to be an everyday player for this team. and Heston Kjerstad's going to be in the mix as well. And now you're dealing with a situation where you've already got Mullins, Santander, Hayes. You're talking about 5 outfielders, and I get it, Kjerstad and Santander could both be used in other ways, but it doesn't seem like Mountcastle's going anywhere this offseason. I wonder at some point if maybe Austin Hayes just kind of ends up being the odd man out, or the guys that the Orioles are forced to look at and say, if we can try to use him in some way to upgrade somewhere else.
Yeah, in conjunction with a prospect of some
correct
some import. You know, he was hitting on June the 20th. He was hitting .327 and led the American League in batting. Since then, he's played in 41 games and he's hit .201 with a .245 on base, .302 slug, an OPS of .547, 3 homers and 15 RBIs. And it doesn't have in here, or at least I don't know how to look it up, how many double plays he's grounded into.
There's no getting around it.
Yeah, he's been awful.
It's been atrocious, and it's a shame. I don't know what else there is to say. I am now coming around on I don't know that Austin Hayes has a longer term place with this team, which is frustrating because like Austin Hayes to me is the picture of a ball player, right? Like he lays out, he plays defense, he does so many times we've talked about him in comparison with like a Nick Markakis, but it's just so wildly inconsistent from the first half to the second half that I don't know how as an organization you can have faith that that's going to change in the coming years.
Yeah, this year there was something different about him in his confidence level, and that now looks to be a distant memory. But again, as we found with Ryan Mountcastle, just when you want to give up on somebody.
That's fair, right. I hope for the Orioles' sake, I hope for Austin Hayes' sake, I hope that all of a sudden September.
He's a good guy. He's a very solid defensively. Can't run the bases very well. He's you understand.
But he does have the threat of speed, right? Like, and
I don't see his threat of speed and his base running instincts are.
I agree with
awful,
that. I agree with the instincts. They're not good. And you might be right. Maybe the threat of speed is irrelevant because of that. Maybe teams have caught on to that. But there's athleticism.
The threat of speed would translate to me that he'd steal 15, 18 bases in a year when he's playing as much as he is. What's he got? I don't even.
I think he's got 2 all year.
2 all year.
Yeah.
How many times has he been thrown out?
Once. He's 2 for 3, so he's only
2
attempted
for 3.
That's weird to me.
Yeah,
that's weird to me that he is. And look, they've got that thing down to a science with the stopwatches. So clearly they don't want him going.
And he does get thrown out at first by a millisecond on more plays than anybody on the team, and it's that millisecond that is the difference between him being a threat speed-wise, and he hustles still. So that's something, too.
I'll bring up one more. I'm only bringing it up. I have been utterly dismissive of it all season, but John Heyman wrote about it this week for the New York Post. The idea that Jackson Holliday could get a cameo before the season is over.
Not going to happen.
Did you hear the Angels just called up?
No.
Angels just called up a guy that they drafted a month ago. Nolan Shanuel.
What's the story there?
He's
is there anything unique about it?
He was at AA and he's been destroying pro ball since he got there in 21 games.
Was he I don't know anything about his background.
Florida Atlantic. He's 21 years old, and they're deciding that they want to.
Nobody's waving back at Stan. Stan's like they're waving to the people in their preschool. They have no interest. Oh boy, maybe after the Speedo incident, they were informed to not look over this way. Yeah, to not look.
Yeah, whatever you do.
Yeah.
Are you saying that because you don't want it versus where is that line?
It's just not the way Mike Elias operates. He's not going to bring Jackson Holliday up this year.
I've never thought that he would. For the record, I have never thought so.
You were right.
And part of it to me is I don't want it, right? And, I do think that's relevant to me as I discuss this. I've never believed he would. Now, look, if John Heyman knows something that I don't know, John Heyman essentially just said the Orioles won't dismiss it. And that comes off to me more as, they almost won't dismiss anything.
Who's Jackson's agent? Is it Scott Burns?
I don't think. Oh, he is Boris, right?
Yeah.
No, no.
Yeah, I think.
Was Boris in his press conference? I remember Matt being in the press conference, but Boris is always in the press conference with any of his clients.
It is
And
Scott.
it's Boris.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's why John Heyman is writing it.
So he says that the Orioles won't dismiss
You
it.
do realize that John Heyman, everything he writes is fed to him
I
by
get it.
Scott Boras.
I get it. But he's saying the Orioles are telling him they won't dismiss it.
Okay.
Again, that reads off to me that they won't dismiss anything. That you present anything to him and they'll say, yeah, it's possible. Anything's possible. Not as a we're actually thinking about it type of scenario.
I just don't see it. Don't see it in the realm of possibility.
I do wonder at this point how.
I mean, I suppose if tomorrow Gunnar Henderson and Ramon Urias both got hurt in a game, that could change that.
Sure.
But as planned right now on August 19th, and with the limitations of how many roster spots
you
get
have
in September, I do not see any way under the sun he's on this team.
I think it's fair to say when you bring up Jackson Holiday, here's the position. I don't think you're doing the Gunnar Henderson thing with Jackson Holiday, where you'll play wherever we tell you to play on a given. I think Jackson Holiday, you bring him up because he's your everyday shortstop, or if you've decided you think it's a different position for him, that's what you're doing with Jackson Holiday. And to me, that's something you start addressing this offseason and clearing a path and deciding early next season we believe Jackson. But at this point, by the way, I think it's May that we're talking about, right?
Probably May or June of next year.
I think they'll want him to get a taste at AAA. I know everybody brings up the fact that Manny Machado never played at AAA, and I understand that. But what we've seen of this regime is not let's skip AAA.
Yeah, and that regime didn't have many other options.
That's also true.
Yeah,
that is also
this is a team teeming with prospects.
Correct.
I mean, he looks like he's going to have leapfrogged Ortiz
and Norby, right?
Yeah.
And with those guys doing nothing wrong in the process. Those guys both should be at the major league level basically anywhere else at this point. But yes, to me, there's got to be in the offseason, we have decided that when Jackson Holiday is ready, he's the shortstop. So the guy that's going to be playing shortstop to start the season is someone that we know is easily movable when we're ready to go about doing
One of the things this organization has to do to avoid something like hitting the wall and all that, it would sure as hell help if they started to develop their own pitchers a little bit more. I'm not saying they have to have 7 of them, fighting for spots, but they virtually have had, other than Grayson, who was drafted by Dan Duquette, they've had absolutely nothing come up that they've developed.
But they haven't. They haven't spent.
To Mike Elias's credit, he did trade for Kyle Bradish,
right?
But it would really help that they don't just simply use the prospects to pick up veteran pitchers that they most likely aren't going to sign again.
It's the reality,
Yeah.
and the point. This is what happened. They look. I wrote about this. There is no criticizing what their draft strategy has been because they've hit. The players they've drafted have hit, but at some point it has led to this. You've had to pay a tax for pitching because you've completely ignored pitching in the early rounds of the draft.
Right.
You had to pay a premium.
I mean, that's part of the reason they have so many prospects teaming
Correct.
in the organization. They were very smart. Let's just put it this way. Let's give Mike credit that he knew it was time to go the other way. And this year they drafted, 12 out of 20?
They did, but still the first one was in the 3rd round, right?
But he's a pretty good pitcher. The kid
Baumeister,
yeah.
They need that. They need to, and by the way,
get some arms.
To me, it also might be that if you've decided that it's time to move on from Austin Hayes, that instead of it being that for a starting, it might be that you all have said this a lot of times. It's possible to me that the Orioles do a little bit of both, and that might be the next Tampa thing that John Angelos was talking about. That, yes, we're going to try to acquire players, but we also might use our players to acquire more for the system. And if somebody's willing to take on Austin Hayes and give us the, experimental, the young pitcher that they don't know exactly what they are yet, that might be the type of thing.
We see something.
And that we think if you get him in with the Chris Holt system, that we can get something out of that. that might be something
it's
that
very
the
clear
Orioles.
that if they did offer up an Austin Hayes in a trade, they're not going to be looking for an outfielder because
Correct.
the
Yes.
system is kind of teeming with them right now.
But to the thought you brought up, like if you packaged Austin Hayes and a prospect to get a now starting pitcher, of course I'm listening to that. But their thought might also be, let's save those prospects and instead try to use Austin Hayes to
pitching
young pitchers and see if we can't go that route. And you're not going to get top-notch pitching prospects, but you might get those.
Well, you might get those that you see something in that,
bingo,
that they don't.
Bingo.
You know.
All right, when we come back in, Bo Smolka, PressBox Ravens beat writer. He was out there this week as the Ravens practiced against the Commanders. Things got chippy. In fact, the Commanders player got injured because of a fight with Mark Andrews. That's a thing that occurred this week. It's unfortunate. You don't want to see that happen. We'll talk to Bo about what he saw. Obviously, the Ravens in the cornerback market signed Ronald Darby. Is there more to come? We'll discuss all that with Bo next. Stan the Fan is here. It's Glenn Clark Radio. You feel that? That's the sound of football coming back, and now's the time to place your preseason bets with Superbook Sports. Superbook is the most trusted name in Vegas, and now you can use my promo code GlennClark23 to score up to $250 with their first bet bonus. Win or lose, they'll match your first bet up to $250 with the promo code GlennClark23. All one word, no spaces, two N's in Glenn. Don't miss out this football season. Win some money with Superbook Sports and that promo code GlennClark23. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
It's another exciting weekend of affordable family fun at Prince George's Stadium with the Bowie Bay Sox. It's the return of Grateful Dead Night on Friday the 18th. A special t-shirt package is available. Back-to-back fireworks carry on to Saturday the 19th with our Baytoberfest. Get some beer specials while you enjoy the game. And get here early on Sunday for a pregame Meet the Team autograph session. Get your tickets now by calling 301-805-6000 or anytime online at baysox.com. The Bowie Bay Sox. Let us be your 9-inning vacation.
I'm Michael Jangrandi, president of AJ Michaels, your carrier energy expert for 44 years. Save money, energy, and make your home more comfortable and virus-free. Find us at ajmichaels.com. That's ajmichaels.com.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka dives into what's next for Lamar Jackson after receiving one of the biggest contracts in football history. Is Lamar ready to take the Ravens to the next level, now with a new offensive coordinator and new wide receivers? Also inside, we look at what new football coaches Brian Newberry and Pete Shinnick bring to Navy and Towson respectively. And we meet players from the college football and soccer programs around the state. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
It's a Maryland thing you wouldn't understand.
Where the waves meet the shore, you will find Dorchester County. Hi, this is Jimmy Charles. When I think of Maryland, I think Dorchester County on the eastern shore where it's open for making memories. Dorchester County, it's a Maryland thing. For more info, visit www.visitdorchester.org.
It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah. It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah.
America's biggest bike race returns to Maryland Sunday, September 3rd as 120 of the world's best cyclists race the Maryland Cycling Classic presented by United Healthcare. Come enjoy the free fan zones and festival with interactives, food, and drink beginning at noon. Then see the exciting race conclusion from 3 to 5 p.m. in the Inner Harbor. Come be loud, be proud, and let the world hear you. For more information, go to marylandcyclingclassic.us.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
If you miss anything on the show, don't forget that you can watch full episodes at youtube.com/PressBox online, and you can download podcasts on Apple, iTunes, Amazon, and Grindr. Wait, did I say Grindr? I don't think that you would find it on Grindr. Not that I know it's on Grindr or anything, I swear. On second thought, you know what? I don't care what you think. Here's Glenn.
Hey, good morning to our friend, Mr. Josh Charles, who checked in this morning. Always appreciate Josh joining us. I don't know. Like me, I understand he's just a big fan. I don't know why he puts up with you. I don't get that at all.
He's a fan of yours.
I love Josh. Yeah. Josh has been a friend for a very long time. I love Josh. You had a couple of shows this week. A couple of good guests.
Yes, we did. Had really two really good shows this week. Had John T-Bone Shelby.
Yep.
We went against our format now where it's Luke, Ross, and I talking baseball, kind of like an O's pregame type of thing. But I bumped into Shelby at the 40th anniversary. He was really terrific. He's really, I mean, the guy's like probably like 67 years old. But to see him have grown to what he is now, he's such a much more confident, his self-esteem is tremendous. He was such a shy guy when he came up in 1982. Anyway, he was great. And then on Wednesday evening, Gary Stein and I talked to John Kelly from Kelly Benefits, who I know is going to
chairman. Yeah, he'll be back with us next week. Yeah,
about his chairmanship of the Maryland Cycling Classic. And it's funny, Jen Nelson, who always puts out the tweets and the Facebook posts, at least I thought I read it, that she said, you know, this is what I've got for John Kelly. And it said he was the co-chairman. And I referred to him 2 or 3 times that way. And he wasn't offended, but he goes,
nah, it's just me.
Really like
to know I'm the boss. Yeah, right.
Co-chairman with.
No doubt.
Goes,
no doubt.
So
those shows available, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, PressBoxOnline.com/video, YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
Stein and I are going to try and make it out to Sparks on the
to
morning
see
of the 3rd
the send-off.
The send-off, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. We got a new print issue of PressBox that's available right now, and on the cover, a story from Bo Smolka. It's all about Lamar Jackson and the now kind of post-contract era. Joining us to discuss that, but also just to discuss what's been going on this week out in Owings Mills, he is PressBox Ravens beat writer Bo Smolka, and he's with us now here on the program. Bo, it's Glenn and Stan. It's good to catch up, my friend. Thanks for taking the time for us, as always.
Good morning. You're welcome.
Obviously, we talked a little bit last week, but that was before everybody had read the story, and now everybody's had the opportunity to get out to their neighborhood Royal Farms, pick up this print issue of PressBox. Just take me through, Bo, you know, as it was presented to you, what you wanted to accomplish with this month's cover story.
I mean, there's been so much talk about Lamar Jackson. I mean, there always is, right? But the question is, it's different now for Lamar Jackson. And for years, we've heard people say he has no receivers. He has an offense where they can't throw the ball. He has this restriction. He has this limitation given to him by the system. And this has all held him back. And now all those things that people have said have been impediments to Jackson are gone in a way. I mean, they have a new system. They have an entire new group of receivers. And he got paid. And so the dynamic is different than it had been. And so what I wanted to do was kind of get at that. And let's face it, a team gives a franchise quarterback a massive mega deal because they expect him to take them to the Super Bowl. He's a franchise quarterback, and that's the expectation. That's why Eric DeCosta said straight out, we think he's the best quarterback in the league. So how is it different for Lamar Jackson now versus previous years? How is it different for him? I mean, how does he approach it differently, if at all? And of course, a lot of these answers we can't know yet. But what I wanted to do was get a sense of the dynamic and how different the pressure is on him. And I think there's a lot more pressure on him now. Well, but he, to talk to his teammates, doesn't see it as any different at all. And he said it. Look, there's no pressure on me. I'm playing football. Tyler Huntley said to me, he's the exact same guy he's always been. And so I believe that. I firmly believe that. I don't think Lamar Jackson is treating it any differently because he got paid. Well, I don't think he views it any differently in terms of now he got paid and now he's expected to do this and this and this. He's a competitive guy, and he expected to do it all before. And so none of that, I think, has changed. But I think externally, and I think probably for a lot of people, they say, okay, Lamar, you've got your receivers now that you didn't have before. You don't have to rely on Seth Roberts anymore. You have Odell Beckham. And you've got a system that's going to let you show what you can do as a passer. And as Kurt Warner said in our story, okay, then now it's time. Show us. Show us you can be that guy, too, that can throw the ball 40 times a game consistently, and here's your chance to do it. So I think that's all in play this year. Does Lamar Jackson feel any more pressure? No, I don't think he feels any more pressure. I think he sees himself as the same guy, and I think he's the same guy in the locker room. But I think there is a lot more pressure. As I said, this team has paid him to go win a Super Bowl.
Bo, I'm just curious if it came up while doing the story or not. I mean, the big difference between the Ravens and Joe Flacco is that clearly Steve Bisciotti was of a mindset of you go out there and prove it, and then we'll pay you. I had the sense all along that the Ravens had tried to engage Lamar several times seriously, and that he just kind of, not out of like I'm going to want to test free agency, he just didn't take it that seriously. Did you get that sense?
Well, there was clear for a while there. It was Lamar Jackson was just not interested. I think you're right. I remember Eric DeCosta telling us maybe it was a year and a half ago or a year ago at least when he said, we will operate at Lamar's urgency. That was DeCosta's quote. And he basically was saying, you know, Lamar Jackson's not that interested in doing this now. Again, without an agent, there's not an agent involved. And I don't think there was a sense of urgency on Lamar Jackson's part. And I don't know that it was, I'm going to go out and win and then you'll have to pay me. I think it was just, I'm just going to play, and we'll get to it when we get to it.
Yeah.
He is Bo Smolka. Again, this cover story is available right now. Your neighborhood Royal Farms, and those hundreds of locations around town where you find PressBox, and you can read it as well as the entire issue at PressBoxOnline.com. Bo, it was certainly an interesting week for the Baltimore Ravens, and the big story is Marlon Humphrey dealing with an injury. We don't know. There's not a defined timeline yet for Marlon Humphrey, but fear that he could miss time. The Ravens have already addressed it in one way by signing Ronald Darby, although Ronald Darby's coming off a significant injury, so you kind of have to see that he's definitely going to be ready to go. Do you expect there could still be more moves that could be made by the Ravens, knowing that there's an indefinite timeline for Marlon Humphrey?
I mean, sure, there could be. The problem is right now you have to see who's out there. And anyone that has no concerns is not unemployed right now.
Correct.
Right? So I do think they will continue to study. There'll be roster cuts at the end of the month. I absolutely think they'll be looking at those closely. Now, John Harbaugh said he does expect, like Jalen Armour-Davis just came back to practice yesterday. They expect Arthur Maulet, who they signed this summer, to be back soon. But again, now, I mean, Jalen Armour-Davis was hardly on the field last year, so I'm not sure he is viewed as the missing link to taking this team where it needs to be without Humphrey. So there's absolutely concern there. Demarion Pepe Williams, he's another guy that's been hurt. Rock Ya-Sin is hurt, although again, John Harbaugh thinks Rock Ya-Sin will be back soon. So there's one of your presumed starting corners at least will be back. Pepe Williams had ankle surgery, so he's likely to start the season on IR and end up probably sidelined till October. So absolutely there's still concerns. The thing with Humphrey was, the strange thing about that is he didn't miss a practice, as far as I know, all training camp. And he spoke at the podium the day before he had surgery. And he didn't indicate there was any trouble or anything at all. Now, Jonas Schaefer from the Banner said he saw Humphrey kind of limping into the locker room after that practice, the first of the two joint practices with Washington. I didn't see that, but he'd been practicing all summer, and he was at the podium that day, and then the next morning he's having surgery. So that was strange. Now, I will say, if he just if it's been bugging him. I asked John Harbaugh, did he get hurt in the practice? And he said, no, it's been a lingering thing. If that's true, and he tried at the joint practice and it bothered him again, and he said, well, let's get it done now. Well, that probably makes more sense than trying another 2 weeks. And now the first week of the season, you decide you have to do it. Now you miss 6 games. Here it looks like he might miss a game or two. Of course, the second game is at Cincinnati, so that would be a big one. But John Harbaugh said, look, this is something we thought would get done now, get it over with, and get ready. Obviously, losing him is a major problem, and they are, they're kind of at the whims of the rehab process to see where they go with it.
Yeah, it's not great, Bo. I have had this theory that I have floated out a couple times, and it was even before the Marlon Humphrey injury, but I almost wonder if it's even more obvious now. That for as much as everybody says, well, how are you going to replace Marlon Humphrey, and you got to go out and, you sign Darby, maybe you sign Anthony Brown, whoever it is, I've wondered if internally the thing that the Ravens won't tell you publicly is we're intending to replace Marlon Humphrey by having the offense score more points this season. And that every decision we've seen made by this team this offseason, they never replaced Calais Campbell. They let Justin Houston walk without doing anything to upgrade that position in any way. At best, they attempt.
Some of that money has to go. I mean, there's not as much money to go around.
Right, because Lamar Jackson, Odell Beckham, they drafted another receiver in the first round. They, at best, maybe replace Marcus Peters with Rock Ya-Sin, but that's, at most, it's a replacement and certainly not an upgrade. I just wonder if the part they can't say aloud is, look, the pendulum is swinging the other way, and the plan for how to make up for the loss of Marlon Humphrey is we've got to score more points with a Todd Monken offense and committing this much to Lamar Jackson.
Well, they're going to have to. There's no doubt, and I think it's fair to expect the offense to score more. You as you said, you've invested in it, and I think you have every right to have that return on your investment be a more productive and a higher scoring offense. I will say, before these injuries in the secondary, they were extremely high on this group. No, they didn't replace Calais Campbell, but people in that upstairs, the coaching staff, the administration, they are really high on their defensive line. Those young players are doing really well. I think for the first part of training camp, and through OTAs, it's been the best position group. So the Calais Campbell thing, I mean, he is a super guy, but I think they were fine moving on from him because I think they are really high on what they have up front with the defensive line. The edge rush group has been consistently a concern, and no one's really talking about Tyus Bowser, who hasn't been practicing at all yet, and we keep waiting for him to appear because, again, Ajabo and Owe have looked very good this summer, but there's very little behind them right now. They've got a few guys that are developing. Tavius Robinson's a rookie they drafted. Tyus Bowser, they think, will come back sometime soon, but again, John Harbaugh has been vague about that. I still expect them to pick up an edge rusher along the way. I know Clowney had, been given an offer reportedly, and they continue to kick the tires on edge rushers as they should. But I think they thought, and they still think, overall, it's still a good defense. And if Humphrey and Rock Ya-Sin and the secondary were healthy, I think it'd potentially be a very good defense. Roquan Smith is just the heart of it, obviously, in the middle. Patrick Queen looks really good. So I do think, to answer your question, yeah, they expect the offense to score more, and they have every right to expect the offense to score more because they've invested a lot in it.
Right.
But I don't think before the injuries they were saying, well, we're going to win this way now. We're going to become the high-scoring team that can win, and we're not going to emphasize defense as much. No, they actually thought the defense was really good before these injuries, and I think they still think it can be if they get everybody healthy.
Hey, I just want to momentarily flip back to the offensive side of the ball and talk a little bit about Todd Monken and how he intends to use
Zay
the
Flowers.
tight end situation.
Right. I'm sorry, is that
the tight end?
How he intends to use what?
The tight ends.
The tight end?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, again, we see some inklings of it. He's not going to show a lot yet. There's times we've seen in the joint practices, we saw formations with two tight ends that get on the field. I do think we will see more spread formations with just one tight end on the field. how much they use Patrick Ricard as an inline blocking tight end in running situations. I think all of that is questionable. I don't think we'll see as many 2 tight end sets as we saw last year, but I think we will see some based on what we've seen so far. I think they'll find times when either Ricard and Andrews are on the field together, likely in Andrews, or two tight end combinations. I will say that for all they do, for all this offense has done, for all the new formations and all the new routes and all the new schemes, when the play breaks down, Jackson looks for Andrews. It's always been that way, and I think it always will be that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Andrews, I think there's a very good chance Andrews still leads this team in receptions because exactly that. When the play breaks down, Lamar Jackson looks for Mark Andrews. And Mark Andrews is still a really tough guy to defend. He's competitive on every reception. So he will be a huge part of it. How much they use 2 tight end sets, how much Likely and Kolar are involved is a fair question. I think they will be there some, but these tight ends aren't going away in this offense, especially Andrews.
Bo, one of the questions that I've been wondering, if Marlon Humphrey is going to miss time in the regular season and the Ravens are thinking we might need the offense to be a little bit – hit the ground running a little bit more, say, week 2 against Cincinnati. I know that we have seen since post J.K. Dobbins, the Ravens have been utterly allergic to playing regulars in the preseason. But we're watching just about everybody else. I mean, Patrick Mahomes playing on the turf in New Orleans last week. Josh Allen's playing for Buffalo. Do you think there could be any thought from the Ravens that maybe – if you got to get the offense going a little bit quicker, perhaps you want to get those guys out there a little bit in the next couple of weeks?
It's good. I was leaning toward against it. I asked John Harbaugh that just specifically for this coming game against Washington. I asked him if we would see the starters, and he kind of couched and said maybe a little bit more, but we're pretty much going to stay with what we've done. I just think they are wary of. I think we'll see starters very little, if at all. We might see a couple more starters play a little bit. It's a fascinating topic, right? Because if you do play Jackson and he does get
100%,
Harbaugh is going to be clobbered.
Yep.
And so, but if you don't, and they come out over 3 weeks and they're scuffling, you should have played him in the preseason. In a way, Harbaugh can't really win.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got to go with his gut here. And I think his gut right now is keep these guys ready for the preseason. They got the joint practices, which were pretty well controlled and pretty competitive. And they got a good look at another team. And I don't think we'll see Jackson. And I think we won't see many of the starters.
Bo, what about the running back situation? Is there any new news on Dobbin?
He was back this week, Stan.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
He was back.
Dobbins is practicing. He's on the field doing individual work. He looks good. In the joint practices, he didn't take part in any of the full 11-on-11 drills with Washington. Again, he's only been back for a couple days now. He looks good. The running back group looks good. And Keaton Mitchell, the undrafted rookie from East Carolina, looks terrific. And if I were to make a 53-man roster right now, I think he'd make the team. I think there's a chance they keep him as a 4th running back and as a special teamer. It's not lost on me that he was seen as a kick returner and as a punt gunner. And those are issues where if you're a 4th running back, you make this team.
Yeah.
So, and he's got burst. He showed it on that long touchdown run that got called back in the preseason game. I think he's looked very good. So the running back group looks good. And Dobbins, I mean, again, they're ramping him up, as John Harbaugh calls it. I think it's clear there's not a whole lot wrong with him physically. I think that he is getting up to his camp football shape, speed, going out day after day after day. And I don't think we'll see him play in the preseason, but I do think he's going to do more and more in practice. He'll probably start doing some 11-on-11 stuff. And I think physically he looks good.
I got one more for you, Bo. Watching the first preseason game, it just hit me how fantastic Justin Tucker is. I mean, it's like money in the bank. Do you expect us to see the same decision-making by John Harbaugh where you have the best kicker in the game and you incessantly want to go for it on 4th down and give up points that can come back to bite you in the butt later in the game?
Yeah, he does. I mean, that's a decision that always comes up because you're right. Tucker kicked a 60-yard field goal in the first preseason game. And, I think someone said they saw John Harbaugh on the TV feed say, like, wow or something, which I didn't see. But
I was amazed by it.
I mean, nothing with Tucker surprises you anymore. He's just so good. The funny thing is, if he has a day where he misses 2 in practice, then some people are worried about him. He is as pure as they come in the division. Now, as for the decision-making, it is very interesting because John Harbaugh he'll almost always go on 4th and 1, 4th and short, and we know sometimes he's opted against a field goal, very makeable field goal, to try to control the ball, to try to control the clock, to keep moving because he thinks his offense is getting a first down. Sometimes I wonder if that's a matter of showing faith in your offense and saying, yeah, you guys can go out and get this, go get it. And it's a faith in your defense. If we don't get it, our defense is going to stop it. But when it doesn't work and you have Tucker on the sideline and he doesn't take 3 points that look like they're easy, then it can look really bad. The bigger thing with Tucker is, as I forget what coach it was last year or maybe a year before, said the Ravens just have this weapon that others don't have. I mean, they can make decisions and play calls from, say, the opponent 42-yard line, knowing, well, yeah, if we don't make it, sure, we'll try a 59-yard field goal. And it's not even much of a hesitation that they want to try a 59-yard field goal. A lot of teams aren't going to do that. So he's a weapon that no one else has. He has been for years, and he's still at the top of his game.
There's no question about that. At B Smolka on Twitter is how you follow him. Of course, PressBoxOnline.com is where you see his stuff. Will you be in Landover on Monday night?
I will not. I have another appointment I have to do that afternoon, and if you know,
it's not easy.
Landover
It's
not.
not.
Is not easy.
It is not easy.
You need to plan that out for a weekend.
Yeah, getting it out of there is a nightmare. But I think I won't be there, but I'll watch it and we'll write off it. But no, I can't go down there.
Understood. Bo, appreciate you, man.
Appreciate it,
we will talk again.
We'll talk Thursday, Bo.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, Bo.
PressBox Ravens beat writer Bo Smolka with us here on GCR.
He's going to do our Zoom this
He'll be
Thursday.
joining you and Gary Stein.
Gary won't be able to do
just
it
you.
Thursday. Yep.
Just
we
you.
tried to jiggle him to be able to do it Wednesday, but he's going to the Oriole game Wednesday night.
That's you know what? It's better. Let's
better.
just be honest.
Well,
it's better.
Stein,
It just brings everything down.
Yeah.
Today's show brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. This hour, Matthew Etzel will make a trip down to Delmarva to catch up with him, and then we will chat with Baltimore native and Commanders cornerback Kendall Fuller. That's all on the way. Stan the Fan is here. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Catch that festival feeling in Charm City. Everywhere you go, you'll find exciting entertainment, delicious eats, and endless summertime fun. Cheer on the O's at Camden Yards, pick crabs by the waterfront, beat the heat inside a world-class museum, and make memories that will last a lifetime. Go to baltimore.org for more information and to plan your visit.
It's game on every day at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Here, you are in on every play with 100-foot screens at Sports and Social, the best table games action, and FanDuel Sportsbook, all just steps away. The best bar bites and drinks to indulgent steaks and curated cocktails. Your game day only gets better when matched up with Live's distinguished dining options. Late game? No problem. Our luxury hotel awaits. Live Casino and Hotel Maryland is the place to be on game day and every day. For more information, visit www.maryland.livecasinohotel.com. At Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All electronic tolling is here to stay in Maryland, and DriveEasyMD.com helps you cruise a little easier. We're Maryland's tolling resource. Home to EasyPass, pay-by-plate, and video tolling. It's never been easier to pay your way. DriveEasyMD.com. We'll keep you moving.
The Orioles are off and running, out to prove that last season wasn't a fluke, and they are one of the best teams in baseball. Hi, I'm Paul Valley, host of the Bat Around for PressBox. Tune in every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon as Zach Goodman and I break down every Adley Bob, every Tony Tater, and every save from the mountain. Like a warm hug from Rutschman, the Bat-Around has you covered with all things Orioles as we embark on what's sure to be a magical summer in Birdland. So tune in every Saturday for the best in Orioles coverage right here on the Bat-Around.
Picking a restaurant to try for the first time? Let's look at the Costas Inn. Here's a few checklist items. Quality of the food? Check. Quality of service? Check. Does restaurant have plenty of free parking? Check. And finally, does restaurant have delicious steamed crabs, crab cakes, crab soup, and specials galore? Check, check, check. Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They check all the boxes.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka dives into what's next for Lamar Jackson after receiving one of the biggest contracts in football history. Is Lamar ready to take the Ravens to the next level, now with a new offensive coordinator and new wide receivers? Also inside, we look at what new football coaches Brian Newberry and Pete Shinnick bring to Navy and Towson, respectively. And we meet players from the college football and soccer programs around the state. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
It's another exciting weekend of affordable family fun at Prince George's Stadium with the Bowie Bay Sox. It's the return of Grateful Dead Night on Friday the 18th. A special t-shirt package is available. Back-to-back fireworks carry on to Saturday the 19th with our Baytoberfest. Get some beer specials while you enjoy the game. And get here early on Sunday for a pregame Meet the Team autograph session. Get your tickets now by calling 301-805-6000 or anytime online at baysox.com. The Bowie Bay Sox. Let us be your 9-inning vacation.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
If you need more of Glenn, you can also hear him every Sunday with Rita on 105.7 The Fan. But also, if you need more of Glenn, what's wrong with you?
Back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Friday edition of the program. Stan the Fan Charles in studio with us. Orioles Athletics series gets underway tonight. I did not see who the Athletics were pitching. They had not announced it as of last night. I don't know if they've announced pitchers.
They were pitching Waldichuk and Sears
I think Waldichuk
Medina.
Medina tonight, I think,
Okay.
is the way it should line up, and then Waldichuk.
I believe that to be true. For some reason, they're not announcing
Who we
it.
starting?
Gibson, Irvin, and Bradish are the three for the weekend. And then, of course, the Orioles will be off on Monday before coming back home next Tuesday.
3 against Toronto.
Exactly right. A couple of things that we had not really I have no idea how much you've been paying attention to this Michael Orr story this week.
A little bit.
It is one of the most bizarre stories, and it is
very kind of disappointing, overall.
It's disappointing, but yet I find myself with more questions every time somebody says anything about this. Apparently in Michael Orr's first book, he wrote about the conservatorship.
Right.
And so everybody said, how can you claim you didn't know about the conservatorship? You wrote it about in the book.
Right.
Which then everybody else said, yeah, the problem is Michael Orr he didn't really write
the book,
his first book. Right. Like, it said Michael Orr had written the book, but it wasn't really written by Michael Orr. So it's
So then that begs the question, did he read
Did he even read his own book, right? And I do remember, like, he wasn't even all that interested because he was here when the first book came out. It came out very quickly thereafter, The Blind Side, and he didn't really have a whole lot of interest in promoting the book. Like, I remember talking to him then, like, hey, do you want to come on? Do you want to? He was like, I think I'm good. I was like,
good.
Didn't you put out a book? And this is the weird part. So Stan, he was supposed to join us in studio next Monday morning. Michael Orr was, because he's got this second book out.
Okay.
Right?
And has
this
that
is
been canceled?
Oh, it was canceled this week. We got the and the funny part was on Monday when all this, came out, I messaged the publicist. I said, hey, are we still good for Monday? She said, oh, absolutely. He'll be here.
I'm just curious, is it the possibility, like so many athletes have gone through their money, that he was like, where am I going to get money? And wait a minute, there's this.
Right. Yeah, a lot of
like
people
I
seem
let
to
it
have,
go all
a
these
lot of
years.
people seem to have profited off of Michael Orr over
Yeah.
the years that I didn't really see that profit the same way.
Right.
And
while he was playing and earning money,
not all that much of a
like,
concern to him.
no,
Exactly
yeah,
right.
Now he's turning around. Hey, I'm 33 years old.
Yeah.
And I don't have
Where's
much money.
Correct.
Yeah.
Where did all the money go? 100%.
Oh, the Tuies have the money. Yeah.
It's extraordinarily awkward. It's
yeah.
extraordinarily uncomfortable. What's not uncomfortable is how our next guest has performed since he was drafted by the Baltimore Orioles, selected in the 10th round out of Southern Miss, and it's been pretty good so far to start things off for Matthew Etzel of the Delmarva Shorebirds, who's with us now here on GCR. Matthew, it's Glenn and Stan in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thanks for taking a couple of minutes for us.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
It's great to chat with you. I wonder, take me through the draft because, this is a moment that you wait for and, it's life-changing no matter what. But knowing what's been going on with the Orioles, was it even more meaningful for you when the call came from this franchise and you thought to yourself, oh, man, this could be a franchise that could be winning a World Series in the next couple of years?
Oh, absolutely. So I was actually in the Cape Cod while the draft was going on, and I got the call while I was in the dugout. So that was pretty cool. But definitely when I saw those Baltimore Orioles.
Wait, do you allow? Hang on a second. I need to know more about this. When you're in the dugout and you get the call, do you allow yourself hey, Skip, can I walk out for 5 minutes? Call my parents, or do you just say, all right, cool, I got to go out and take it at bat in a minute here?
It was about an hour before game time.
Okay, all right.
So there was plenty of time.
Yeah, you're able to enjoy it at that point. I respect that. But yeah, go. I mean, what it meant for you that was the Orioles.
But yeah, once I saw that it was the Baltimore Orioles, just knowing the history with the number one prospects the last few years and how well that they've been developing players, I just saw that they were ranked the number one development system in baseball, and I mean, who wouldn't want to be a part of that?
No doubt about it. It's gone pretty well for you. The start has been pretty good for you too. I know this is part of you're a good baseball player. It's as simple as that. But how happy have you been that your first taste of pro ball has gone so swimmingly?
Oh, it's been amazing. I mean, this is what I've been wanting to do for my whole life, and just wanted to go out there and have fun, and hope that good things would happen, and so far, it's been pretty great.
I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be harder than this, by the way. I don't think it's supposed to be this easy when you make the jump to pro ball.
Matthew,
I'm sure it'll come and get me a little bit later on. But
Matthew,
there's a learning curve that goes with it, and once that hits me, I'm going to do everything I can to get back to where I am.
Matthew, a question about your speed and the speed of your teammate, Mr. Bradfield. You've stolen 7 bases, only been thrown out once. He's 13-0. How big a part? First of all, do you admire that part of his game?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, honestly, I'm a big competitive guy, so we have a little competition going on who can steal more bases, and I have a little catch-up to do, obviously. But, yeah, we're just trying to help each other out. He's definitely helped me with stealing bases, just watching him, so it's been incredible.
I just want to be sure of something. The new bases that we see in the major leagues, that's what they're using now in the minor leagues too, correct? And is that impacting the ability to steal bases? Because it's so slight a difference, but it is a difference.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, every extra inch you have to steal a base is highly important. You can get a little bit bigger leads because when you slide into the bag, you have a little bit more room for error.
Yep.
And I remember the first day we got to pro ball, we all saw the bases, how big they were. And they ended up bringing out one that we were using from college, and we didn't realize actually how big the bases are compared to college. So, yeah, you see it in the MLB this year on how much the stolen bases have gone up.
Yep.
And taking into account the pickoff rule now, makes base running a bigger part of the game for sure, stealing bags.
He is Matthew Etzel with us here on GCR. The Shorebirds are home this weekend. If you're headed down to the beach, you might want to stop off because tonight is Gunnar Henderson bobblehead night at Purdue Stadium. Also this weekend, fireworks night, Scrapple night, a celebration of Scrapple. Get some folks from Delaware down that way. And also on Sunday. By the way, Matthew Etzel, I'm guessing you've never had Scrapple in your life. It's just a rough guess. Can I assume that's correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just if you're not from this area, there's absolutely no reason why you would have ever tried Scrapple. But that can change. Kids run the bases on Sunday. A lot going on with the Shorebirds this weekend.
Hey, Matthew, let me just jump in real quick. Any shot you could snag Glenn and I both?
And some Gunnar Henderson bobbleheads? Yeah, just put away for your pals up here. We wouldn't mind that.
I'll see what I can do.
I appreciate,
I'm sure you will.
Appreciate you putting in the effort. That means a lot. I want to know a little bit more about your game because, like as Stan mentioned, clearly stolen bases, your speed, a huge part of the game. You hit really well at the college level. You're obviously hitting really well. Do you feel like that the power thing could still be coming? We saw some home runs. Like, where exactly do you feel like your game can go now as you progress as a pro?
So in college, I was more of like a line drive guy.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't hit too many homers.
Yep.
But I'm trying to hit the ball more in the air here now, and over the next couple of years, I'm going to be working on getting my exit velos up over the course of the season. And anytime I get on base, I'm trying to steal, no matter the situation or what it is. I feel like if I can get to second or third or turn a single into a triple, I mean, that's going to help our team score runs.
I think there's no doubt about it. I think it's something the Orioles have prioritized in the last couple of years is trying to have more and more speed. And so it seems like it's a completely perfect fit. I guess, getting adjusted, Stan brought up Enrique. Are there other guys from this draft class that you've connected with already and you've developed, like, in such a short amount of time, some relationships as, it's sort of like college all over again, kind of being dumped in a new place?
I mean, honestly, I've developed a relationship with all of our whole draft class over the couple of weeks that we were in Sarasota working out. We all had the same locker room or clubhouse, so we were able to connect in there every day. And Tavion, Mac, and Jalen are the other ones here right now, and we're all really close to each other, so it makes this whole process a lot of fun.
It's cool. It's really, really cool. And what have you learned so far about expectations from the Orioles, right? Like, what is it that you've the feedback you've gotten from them and what they want to see you prioritize as you make this adjustment to pro ball?
Just understanding that it's a process and that everything's long-term, that nothing can be really like accomplish or fix in one day. It might take a couple months to start mastering or learning some things about how to get better in some certain aspects, and just believing in the process, and that over time when you get better, it'll show in the game, and hopefully within those couple of years, you'll be in the big leagues playing.
Matthew, one of the things I noticed right off the bat, you got an on-base percentage of .422. In the Mike Elias era here in Baltimore, it just seems like one of the main things when he's looking at hitters is how they control the strike zone. Were you always somebody that saw on base as being an important part of the game? I mean, it may sound like a stupid question, but there's an awful lot of hitters that get up there
just want to
swing in one swing. Do you like to work the count? Is that part of your game?
I just want like a good pitch to hit, but in college and summer this year, I was the leadoff hitter for probably 100 games in a row. So anything I could do to get on base, and that role was my main priority. And then once I got on base, to steal second and third, help us score. So yeah, on base percentage I think is super important. There's some situations where you want to drive runners in, some situations where you want to get on base, but getting on base and stealing bags is also obviously going to help the team every time.
You know, he says he's not really, the home run, the power thing hasn't been a huge part of his game, but he's already got a grand slam so far, right? And, like, he's already got one. I imagine that had to be a pretty cool, as someone who hasn't been a huge power hitter, I imagine hitting a grand slam, like, really quickly in your pro career had to be a pretty good feeling.
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah.
It's actually my second ever grand slam I've ever hit in all levels of baseball.
Wow.
So.
That one doesn't suck. That one doesn't suck for sure. All right. At Etzel, Etzel 34 on Twitter. Yeah, go ahead,
And
Sam.
I have to apologize, Matt. I looked you up now. I had you under the Delmarva Shorebirds individual stats. That had 7 stolen bases.
Yeah, you were stealing.
Now you're at 9.
Right. It was
I shortchanged you.
What a jerk he is. What a jerk this guy is, man. You got to give him his love.
Got to give him his props.
Etzel 34 on Twitter is how you follow him. Matt, you really appreciate taking
Thanks
the time
for the time.
for us. Best of luck as you move forward, and we'll be looking forward to chatting with you more as you make your way through the system, all right?
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Thank you, bud.
Matthew Etzel of the Delmarva Shorebirds with us here on GCR.
Didn't sound like we're getting that gunner. He didn't sound real enthusiastic about snagging us gunner.
Yeah, I don't think that might not be the. I mean, we can try to ask somebody else. Enrique Bradfield liked us a lot when he was on with us.
Sure.
Maybe we can
How
ask.
many stolen bases does he have?
Total? That's a good point, right?
Bradfield,
Yeah,
because
you aren't looking at his Delmarva
probably got
numbers,
15
right?
or 16
if you include
now.
the rookie league ball. Hang on a second. Enrique Bradfield has combined only 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's
only
catching
14.
them.
It's true. He's right in that neighborhood. All right, when we come back in, Kendall Fuller, the Commanders, Baltimore native, Ravens Commanders, Monday Night Football coming up Monday night down in Landover. We'll talk to him about it next. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Hike to new heights. The best view is yours in Washington County. Our iconic scenic overlooks provide some of the most breathtaking vistas in the Mid-Atlantic. Some are very easy walks, some can be driven to, and some are the payoff for a moderate to difficult hike. All are near quaint small towns that offer great dining, shopping, hiking gear, and more. Explore our 5 national parks for iconic vistas and wineries with breathtaking views. Visit our quaint historic towns and make your stay unforgettable. Learn more at visithagerstown.com. Maryland, be open.
America's biggest bike race returns to Maryland Sunday, September 3rd as 120 of the world's best cyclists race the Maryland Cycling Classic presented by United Healthcare. Come enjoy the free fan zones and festival with interactives, food, and drink beginning at noon. Then see the exciting race conclusion from 3 to 5 p.m. in the Inner Harbor. Come be loud, be proud, and let the world hear you. For more information, go to marylandcyclingclassic.us.
Soak up summertime fun in Charm City. Enjoy only in Baltimore festivals, mouth-watering eats, and endless entertainment. Cheer on the O's at Camden Yards. Pick crabs by the waterfront. Beat the heat inside a world-class museum and make memories that will last a lifetime. Go to baltimore.org for more information and to plan your visit.
You feel that? That's the sound of football coming back, and now's the time to place your preseason bets with Superbook Sports. Superbook is the most trusted name in Vegas, and now you can use my promo code GlennClark23 to score up to $250 with their first bet bonus. Win or lose, they'll match your first bet up to $250 with the promo code GlennClark23. All one word, no spaces, 2 N's in Glenn. Don't miss out this football season. Win some money with Superbook Sports and that promo code GlennClark23. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
I'm Michael Jangrandi, president of AJ Michaels, your carrier energy expert for 44 years. Save money, energy, and make your home more comfortable and virus-free. Find us at ajmichaels.com. That's ajmichaels.com.
Maryland drivers, did you know you can save up to 77% on tolls with an Easy Pass Maryland discount plan? That's right, 77%. It's never been easier. Pick the plan that's right for you at driveezmd.com. We'll keep you moving.
It's a Maryland thing you wouldn't understand.
Where the waves meet the shore, you will find Dorchester County. Hi, this is Jimmy Charles. When I think of Maryland, I think Dorchester County on the Eastern Shore where it's open for making memories. Dorchester County, it's a Maryland thing. For more info, visit www.visitdorchester.org.
It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah. It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah.
Picking a restaurant to try for the first time? Let's look at the Costas Inn. Here's a few checklist items. Quality of the food? Check. Quality of service? Check. Does restaurant have plenty of free parking? Check. And finally, does restaurant have delicious steamed crabs, crab cakes, crab soup, and specials galore? Check, check, check. Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They check all the boxes.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Check out PressBoxOnline.com every day to find daily winners and betting advice from Jeremy Kahn. And if you want some advice about life decisions that you probably shouldn't make, here's Glenn Clark.
Well, all right then. Best laid plans of mice and men. Unfortunately, apparently Kendall Fuller is not going to be able to join us this morning. Griffin will deal with that and figure out what's going on. But that's all right because it means more of Stan and I, and we actually prepared and we need a mic, though.
I only had about, so much in me today.
Oh,
I was counting on the Fuller thing.
So you're saying the dance
man.
routine we prepared earlier. You're not ready to do that
I'm
now.
not ready to do that. No. In fact, I might start talking a little bit like Matthew Etzel.
Oh, you might end up. You all right? Everything okay over there?
I'm fine.
You look like you've been struggling a little
I
bit
got
this
something
morning.
in my eye. My eye hurts.
All right. Well, let's get that straightened up.
Yeah.
We'll have that
You're an
up.
ophthalmologist?
Yeah, I can help in that. I'm so glad you asked. I can absolutely help in that department. I was wondering if the bummer is I was looking forward to chatting about how they were all fighting this week. It was
the fighting Fullers.
Boy, no, I mean not just everybody. It was these teams practiced against each other. It was fight and fight and fight and fight. And if you didn't see it yesterday, Danny Johnson is a cornerback for the Commanders and apparently strained his rotator cuff because he was body slammed by Mark Andrews during one of these fights between these teams. So I was a little bit worried that some of this might carry over. Maybe that's the real reason why Kendall Fuller bailed. Is Baltimore. I'm not talking. We're pissed off about Baltimore right now. We're not doing any of that. As these two teams things got very chippy between these teams.
Both days.
Both days. There was a big fight on the first day, and then there were a couple of fights on the second day. We remember Stan, of course, covering so many training camps in years past, and when they were doing two-a-days in the worst of the heat.
Yeah.
I mean, there would be
some chippy moments.
Inter-team fights regularly. I mean, regularly. We don't see nearly as much of that in recent years, or maybe it's because I don't go out there anymore.
Well, what about this thing with the Colorado, Coach Prime is all ticked off at the players on his team.
Okay.
That didn't participate in the fights.
Oh, I don't know anything about that. What's the story?
Squad fights.
Wait,
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about this story. Deion Sanders. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I'll see. I was trying to see if I can find a video here for you. All right, I think I do have one.
I don't know about what I've got here is a story from ESPN. Most football coaches preach about players keeping their cool in the dog days of August when temperatures and tempers both tend to flare. Not Deion Sanders.
Not Deion Sanders.
The Colorado coach upbraided some of his players Tuesday not for fighting, but for not fighting. A brief fracas followed Anthony Hankerson's touchdown run up the middle in a goal line drill when safety Jaden Milliner-Jones grabbed the running back by his jersey and tossed him to the ground well after he scored. Massive offensive tackle Gerard Christian Lichtenhan, who packs 310 pounds onto a 6'10" frame, didn't appreciate the late aggression and let Milner Jones know it. A lot of pushing, shoving, and hollering ensued as several teammates joined in, although many seemed to be simply trying to keep the peace. Some assistants ran into the fray and separated the players in the middle of the fight. Moments later, as the offense huddled, Coach Prime stepped in and let his players know he wasn't happy with what he had just witnessed. Quote, "I seen two of you walking off over there, and you've got a key teammate fighting," Sanders groused. "Where they do that at? Where they do that at?" "Not here," his players replied. Quote, "If one fights, we all fight." Sanders fumed. "You understand that? I don't want to see you all walking off when somebody's fighting. Never again."
I believe I have the video. Do you want to?
I guess. I don't know.
I think there might be some NSFW sound at the very end. There's a one player uses a curse word.
Well, I mean, do you think it's meaningful? Do you think?
I
Right,
don't.
whatever. Go ahead.
I thought I had.
All right, never mind then. If first it's Kendall Fuller, now it's the audio. It's just
it's all conspiring.
Yeah, right. Rough end of the.
It's all against you.
Remember what you said about this? Maybe we needed to move on and now
all right, I got it.
Yeah, you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
I seen two of y'all walking off over there, and you got a key teammate fighting. What they do that at?
Nowhere.
What they do that at?
Not here.
In one fight, we all fight. You understand that?
No, sir.
I don't want to see y'all walking off when somebody's fighting.
Yes, sir.
Never again.
Walk off.
All right. Come on.
I was in there, man.
All right, so I'm torn here. I'm torn here because I have no doubt that like an old school football person is like, hell yeah, that's the way it works.
Yeah.
Whereas on the flip side,
yeah, you see this guy got body slammed by Mark Andrews.
Right.
Now he might miss 6 weeks.
like the stupidity of imagine a fight between teammates
Right.
being what sidelines one of them when you got to play TCU to open the season. And
wanting it to escalate to include more people,
correct.
more potential for injury.
And now is this going to continue to linger? And tomorrow is there still going to be more bad blood between the offense and the defense?
Did those players sound? They didn't sound like.
Oh,
they went
reluctant.
Not here,
yeah,
not,
right.
Not
it was
here.
a very. It was not a. Yes, sir. It was a very reluctant. Not here. Like the way that like my son responds when I say, "And Graham, what are you supposed to do? Clean my room." Like it definitely does not sound like a
committed.
"Yes, sir, Coach Prime, sir" type of response to it. Yeah, I that's kind of but we don't see fighting, inter-team fighting the same way, and I feel like that's because at some point the coaches have wised up and said we're not having that.
Right.
Like we're not having that anymore. Whereas once upon a time it was
too many ways football players can get injured. You know, Earl Weaver used to always hate that tit for tat when somebody would throw it at his pitchers. He never wanted his pitchers.
We're not escalating this.
Right. We're not escalating it. We're not getting one of our offensive players.
Correct. We're ending this. We're
Right.
ending this because nothing good is coming from it.
It's smarter to end it.
Correct. It's much smarter to end it because it doesn't help anyone. And then particularly when bad teams are involved that just don't care and have nothing to lose.
If you're really ticked off, after the game, you take a shiv.
That's exactly
everybody outside the locker room.
You've always said that.
Of course.
Stan said that used to
course.
be. Stan said actually.
I don't want my players fighting to get hurt.
When there were
but after
issues,
a game,
when there were issues at WFBR, that's actually how Stan handled them, right? Like he would.
Always got a
That's
shiv.
the way it had to
I have
go.
a shiv right now.
Now that's weird. I did not know you still carried it with
still
you
carry
to
a
this
shiv.
day. I'm a bit surprised by that revelation. But yeah, it got chippy as hell this week between the Ravens and the Commanders, and you assume that's just seeing somebody in a different color, and a lot has been made about how the preseason games have been replaced by these inter-team practices as being the relevant part, what matters, and there's a bunch of guys who looked at that this week and said, this is my chance to make my statement and to prove something because this is what I'm being told is the most important part of camp.
It's like their Man of La Mancha moment.
Kinda, right? Like,
this is my moment.
This is 100%. I had Malik Ham on the radio show last night, the Baltimore native from City College, who's a rookie with the Ravens right now and is trying to figure out a way onto the team, and it's an uphill battle for him coming out of the Patriot League. But he abused, and I can't remember the name of the player for the Commanders that he beat the tar out of the other day, and like that's now viral, and now people are seeing it, and for him, it's not just that like the Ravens see it; it's that now it's on the internet, and perhaps there are. So I get it. Like these inter-team practices have been the things. I brought this up with Bo Stan. I'll give it to you. The Ravens have been seemingly allergic ever since J.K. Dobbins got hurt in a preseason game. It has seemed to be a breaking point for the Ravens as a franchise. Now, I have said over and over again, I am in favor of it. I am good with the starters, the regulars, not playing at all in the preseason because I just don't think there's nearly enough of a reward to make up for any risk at all of those guys getting injured in those situations. But it was brought up to me the other night, this thought that if the Ravens offense needs to pick up the slack a little bit more to start the season this year because Marlon Humphrey is going to be sidelined, and we already had questions about edge rush, things like that. With a new coordinator, with a lot of new parts, with Lamar Jackson coming off an injury, Odell Beckham coming off an injury, Rashad Bateman coming off an injury, is there any argument for get those guys out there a little bit in preseason games to hope that they are hitting the ground running a little bit more in the regular season?
It sure seems like the double whammy a couple years back of Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins has spoiled the dynamic players on your offense. Just simply aren't going to play. You know.
Are you good? Are you good with that?
Yeah, I've got to be after watching that. You know. I mean there, and you can chop it up any way you want. To, you know, hiring new strength coaches, you know, stretching more. There was nothing that could have prevented that injury to J.K. Dobbins.
It was a helmet to a knee. I mean, like
it happens in football.
That's the way it goes, right? Like it was against Washington 2 years ago, and it was a little bit later. Like the argument you could make was you already knew at that point that J.K. Dobbins, he was going into his second season. You knew he was a significant player on your team, and if I remember correctly, it was in the second half.
Was it really? I thought it was like the second quarter.
Maybe it was late in the second quarter. It was not like the first series of the game, right?
Yeah.
So the argument that a lot of people were making at the time was why was J.K. Dobbins still in the game?
And wasn't it in the same game
that Gus Edwards got hurt?
Or was Edwards a different game?
I don't remember the Gus Edwards. I know
the double whammy of that.
I say I know as a fact that the J.K. Dobbins thing was influential in John Harbaugh's way of thinking.
No question.
It was only 6 minutes into the game.
It was only 6 minutes. I thought it was more into the game than that. So, you know, even
don't let the facts get in the way.
Yeah, have a good story, 100%. Right? No, I'm completely wrong about it. And I will acknowledge that. Unlike other people who would just, you know, keep going.
I mean, the double whammy of that and the complications with Ronnie Stanley. It was like that team was shot in the foot at the beginning of the season.
Oh, no, it felt like that team carried a black cloud over it entirely. And obviously Lamar Jackson ultimately got hurt.
Every week, too.
For a little while, that was a smart thing to do. And then, you know.
I didn't jinx them.
All right, you jerk. I'll maintain this entirely, right? Like, it is weird to me. I watched, Reed and I were doing the show on Sunday, and I looked up at the TV, and I see Patrick Mahomes on dome turf.
Yeah.
Like, what? Sliding on dome turf in a preseason game. I'm like, what in the world is going on here? Like, what? How is it possibly worth it? And it's weird because, you know, you think that John Harbaugh and Andy Reid's mentalities have been pretty simpatico over the years. Old school, hard-nosed, tough, push him in practice. John Harbaugh obviously has pushed the rules of how much he's able to practice. Over the years, there have been those things, but yet there's a total separation now where John Harbaugh has just sort of said, no, like not doing it, not playing those players in the preseason. It won't happen, whereas even Andy Reid still continues to put in a road preseason game, put Patrick Mahomes out there. So it's interesting to me. But I am largely with you where I would say it's just not worth it to me. You wanna play the grid since we have a minute? You want to do that?
I guess we
have you played yet today?
The grid?
Yeah, have you played it?
I'm into it now.
You're doing it right now?
I need a New York Met with 100 RBIs, and he's got to be, I think, Rusty Staub.
Wow.
Keith Hernandez?
I would have assumed Keith Hernandez would have been a good answer
Gary
there.
Carter
would
be good.
Did Strawberry not have 100 RBIs?
I just think he'd be too popular.
Oh, okay.
The rarity score. Although my rarity score's already shot. I'm 2 players in.
You know who screwed me on rarity score yesterday? I had a great grid yesterday. I can't believe everybody apparently from Minnesota, Seattle used the same player. I could not believe this guy was 50. It was like 46%.
Who was it you used?
Former Oriole.
Played for Minnesota and
Seattle, yeah. 1 season in Baltimore. Very meaningful season. You used Tim Beckham. That's a good one.
0.8%.
That's a good one. I used Nelson Cruz. Not expecting it to be 1%, right? I didn't think that. But considering
51%,
it was crazy to me how many people used Nelson Cruz yesterday. I had a good day otherwise yesterday.
I used Ben Revere was a 7% for the Phillies and Twins. Yeah, or whatever. Yeah, was that what it was? Phillies Twins.
Phillies Twins.
Yeah, Ben Revere was 7%. I thought that was high.
I don't know what happened on one of my grids, and I admit openly I play 3 a day. I play them on each.
Right.
I play them on my laptop, and I take guesses early on the first device I use, and then I try and hone it. I had Mike Schmidt yesterday. As the guy who had been an all-star and an MVP.
Yes.
And I hit Mike Schmidt, and it registered as a guess, but didn't give me.
Ooh.
And then I did it again later. I said something must have gone
wrong there.
You got to be careful that you are plugged into the block you're.
That's exactly what happens to me. I know the answer, and I just clicked on the wrong block, and it screws me. Yeah. You know who got me a 0.01% for All-Star and MVP yesterday?
I did Fred Lynn.
That's a good one. That's 1%. A good one. Yeah. I got
Dale Murphy.
Not Dale Murphy. I used him for Philly, Atlanta.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to use him for Atlanta MVP.
That's right. He played for the Phillies. What percent was it?
It was a low I was surprised by how low. Yeah, it was something like that for Dale Murphy.
I had a couple of great ones. I had a Texas Ranger Philly, and I used my old childhood hero Roy Sievers, who had played for the Washington Senators.
I'm realizing what an advantage it is for Stan.
When you're old.
Except
it's not true. You forget so much.
Okay, there's that, right? And I deal with a lot. I deal with the forgetfulness part. Yeah. But there is definitely a rarity score advantage to being able to fall back on that. I got a 0.01% out of Boog Powell. Boog Powell was
his birthday yesterday.
That's right. It was his birthday yesterday. That was that.
My
100%.
wife and I called him last night.
How's he doing?
He's doing great.
I got to tell you, I don't think I've ever talked to you about this conversation. During the pandemic, we invited. I don't even remember why. Was there an anniversary that we would have invited Boog on during the pandemic? There was something.
70?
Was it a
70?
It was it.
It would have been
the 50 years.
The 50th anniversary of the 70
of the 70.
Yeah, World Series, right?
Right.
So we invited Boog on.
Right.
And he was very sad. And I was worried about Boog. Like I kept
he
trying
had
to.
a lot going on. His wife passed away. He
and
lost a daughter.
And he said, "Look, I'm just here by myself, and I have." And I said, "Boog, I'll call you every day if you'd like. Like you're Boog pal. I need you to know if you'd like me to call you every day, I will call you every day until this thing is over." And so we had this idea that maybe we set up a phone chain,
like a Boog
where everybody takes a turn calling Boog that day. They check in on him. I'm glad he's doing well.
He's doing good.
I'm glad to hear that.
His son's coming into town today. His son was in a terrible car accident about 6 months
Christ,
ago.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Man.
And he lost another daughter. He's had a rough 4 years.
God, I'm sorry to hear that.
But he's a strong guy.
He's Boog pal. I mean, he could lift the city if we needed him to do that. Yeah. All right, who you use? So you're playing right now?
I'm playing. Yeah, I'm not gonna. I want to think about it.
All right. Then I won't ruin anything. I won't ruin anything.
Washington. I need a Washington National and a Cincinnati Red.
I got my best play so far today has been a 0.3% on my Red Brewer. That's been my best play today. Again, using a former Oriole in that spot.
Okay. Red Brewer.
I won't say it out loud. I'll write it down.
No. I know. Yes. I think I know.
I don't know. Do you know?
Like recent.
Write down who you think. No, not a recent Oriole.
Oh, okay.
Not a recent Oriole at all. I won't. This is the one that I used. Don't look, Stan. I'm not trying to give it away to you. I used that guy.
I was thinking that.
That would have been a good one.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly, that would have been a good one. But this one got me
didn't see either one.
0.3% today.
Mine probably would not be 0.3%
on the grid. Yeah, because he's just more modern. I think you're right about that.
Really high. 14%.
Should have used
Did
my
Walter
guy.
Johnson play for the Brewers and the Mets?
I don't know. The Brewers didn't exist then. Yeah, what are you talking about? Yeah, right. What are we doing here? Yeah, what am I? What am I?
Checking to see if you were
why?
paying attention.
Why am I? I'm like thinking through it for a second. I'm like, wait a second, not a chance.
He wanted you to waste your guess. Let me see.
Did you see the stat that was going around last weekend about George Kirby's start?
No.
Oh my God! Hang on a second. So of course George Kirby was brilliant on Saturday night against the Orioles, but unfortunately for him, lost 1-0 in extra innings. George Kirby in that game, of course, pitched 9 innings. Sorry. Tonight, the Mariners, not George Kirby. This is from OptiStats. The Mariners pitched 10-plus innings, allowed fewer than 5 hits, no earned runs, no walks, no extra base hits.
That's a pretty good.
The last MLB team to put up these numbers on the mound but still lose was the Senators on August 28th, 1913, with Walter Johnson taking the complete game loss.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Boy.
110 years since something like that had happened that we saw on Saturday
that
night.
would have been that rare in a I mean, it's rare.
I mean, all of those things. That's
10 innings.
It's all of the qualification. 10 innings, let fewer than 5 hits.
Right.
No earned runs.
Right, and no walks.
No walks, no extra base hits. I mean, that's a lot of qualifications on the performance. Wild that the Orioles won that game. All right, you want to go ahead and do tidbits?
Yeah, we can go into tidbits.
All right, tidbit of the day is brought to you today by Superbook. I played a parlay today. Hang on, I'm going to share with everybody my parlay, and we can follow along and see how it goes
GCP.
today. Yes, it's the Cincinnati tennis tournament is going on, and all 3 of these things alone, none of them are worth betting alone because the odds are not great. But when I parlayed all of Hubie Hurkacz against Alexei Popyrin, Carlos Alcaraz against Max Purcell, and Iga Swiatek against Marketa Vondrousova, which is the one I'm most nervous about because Swiatek dropped a set yesterday to Zhang that shouldn't have happened. Now she turned around and won the next 2 sets, 6-1, 6-1, so it's all good. But when I parlayed all 3 of those together, I got to minus 128 odds. That seems like it's worth playing. Seems like it's worth playing those 3 today. So
who was the third leg?
It was you can't play it. It's closed, unfortunately. Swiatek, I guess that means it's underway, so I should probably double check, make sure that I'm not lighting money on fire right now. But that was my parlay. If you wanted to switch out, you could play Novak tonight as your third leg of that parlay. Everybody thought that maybe it might have been Gael Monfils has been playing really well recently.
And this is this the week before the?
So they take a week off and they play like a minor tournament next week.
Okay.
And then the U.S. Open starts the weekend the following. But this is considered the big. These last 2 tournaments, Toronto and Cincinnati, are the 2 major tune-ups.
They're always on the calendar.
Correct. This is a big week.
Who won in Toronto?
It was a weird week. Yannick Sinner won in Toronto as Carlos Alcaraz lost to American Tommy Paul, who nearly beat him again 2 days ago. Tommy Paul pushed Carlos Alcaraz to a 3rd set again.
Wow.
In the last 2 weeks, Tommy Paul has taken 3 sets from Carlos Alcaraz. It's the weirdest, most bizarre thing you could ever possibly imagine. But yeah, so that's what I'm playing. And if you wanted to switch in Djokovic who's playing Taylor Fritz tonight, you could do that. I don't know. It's Djokovic. He'll probably be okay. But Taylor Fritz, an American playing in an American tournament. I just have a hinky feeling. Or you could switch in Zverev against Manarino. If you wanted to do that, as a rule, I don't bet on Zverev because I never want to see him win. So that's where I am. But a nice little parlay that I built over at Superbook, superbook.com. Use the code GlennClark23, or if you're feeling charitable, Stan Charles 23 too. Stan Charles 23 also, not 23-2. Stan Charles 23 also. I'm trying to screw it up.
It's
so you know.
Stan Charles 23. That's all.
That's it.
Very
yes,
similar to Glenn Clark.
Exactly right.
23, only it's got
and
my name.
And what you'll get is a first bet match up to $250. you'll get it matched in free bets. So again, go to superbook.com or download the Superbook app. Use either of those codes, Glenn Clark 23 or Stan Charles 23, and take advantage of that first bet match.
I'll throw you a tidbit first. Someone used a $20 free play, and they won $200,000 on Wednesday.
What the hell was the bet?
They did a 6-leg home run parlay. Which is, this guy's a psychopath. He did the Tigers and the Twins game. So these are two teams that don't hit many home runs to begin with. So I can't even believe that this hit. And then also Pete Alonso to hit a home run, and Brian Reynolds to hit a home run.
You say the Tigers, who did he?
Max Kepler.
Okay.
Kerry Carpenter, Riley Green, and Jorge Polanco.
He had 4 players.
He had four players in that game, and all 4 of them went yard.
Alonso and
Brian Reynolds of the Pirates.
Sure.
And he won. How much did he bet?
It was a $20 free play, and he won $200,000.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. It's not a bet I would ever be able to. That's someone who's
a free play.
Yeah, I guess, but it's so bizarre. God. Go ahead.
Since I'm looking at the betting page, someone has a Rookie of the Year parlay, across, or actually, though they had a couple NBA awards. They had the NHL Rookie of the Year's awards, and they had Bryce Young to be the first quarterback drafted. And they had Gunnar and Corbin Carroll to be the AL and NL Rookie of the Year.
So I got a buddy who was at my party on Saturday who said to me, by the way, I've got a ticket on Gunnar and Corbin Carroll. And I said, what's the payout right now? And he was like, I'm not going to look. I'm holding the ticket. And I was like, God, okay. Okay, I get that there's just
Josh Young is still the favorite. Right?
Well, but,
he's going to miss the rest of the year.
That's what I'm saying. I understand the thought process behind holding the ticket, but yeesh. If there's money offered right now, I'd probably just take it.
I'm not seeing a cash out option, but they would win. They put $10 on this long parlay, and it would pay out $6.7 grand if Gunnar and Corbin Carroll do indeed, because he got both of them at plus odds earlier in the season.
All right, Igor Swiatek and Vondrousova are tied at 5-5 in the first set, so I might be a little distracted by my nerviousness here.
Yesterday, Julio Rodriguez had another great game against the Royals. I believe he went 5 for 5, right? Yeah, he is the first player with a 5-hit day after a 4-hit night game. So he had a 5-hit day game.
So he had
yesterday.
9 hits.
9 hits in essentially 18 hours.
You know who he hit that 3-run homer off of? Carlos Hernandez, who has, since I was promoting him as the guy the Orioles should have acquired, he's been absolutely awful. Awful.
By the way, a lot of people talking this week about, you can never put Fujinami back into a leverage situation again. And I hear you, but somebody's got to go in these leverage situations. If there were 4 other good options.
The only time I've been pissed at Brandon's usage of Fujinami was the game last week. Who were we playing last week in the middle of the week?
The Astro series, yeah.
The Astro series.
Yeah.
Is when he walked 2 batters in a row.
Now,
and I had the audacity to ask Brandon, who I've asked 1,000 questions to, and he's always been respectful. He totally blew me off. I said, I'm just trying to get your thinking on why you take him out after 3 walks, but not after 2 walks.
Right.
Because the question to me wasn't, do I want Fujinami pitching to the number 9 hitter in that team? It was Maldonado.
Okay.
It was, do I want Michael Baumann facing Maldonado with 1 base open,
or the next
Maldonado
batter,
versus Altuve, which was, to me, it was idiotic. It really was. And of course, Altuve,
yep,
he walked Maldonado.
I hear he's good, Altuve. I hear he's a good baseball player.
Even when the trash cans aren't banging.
Well, we don't know that, but yeah, I hear you. All right.
Last time a player had a 5-hit day game after a 4-hit night game, 2002.
You think I'm going to guess who it? Ichiro.
No, not Ichiro. Stan, you want one guess?
Dustin Pedroia. And that wasn't.
No.
He was. It was before Pedroia.
Yeah.
Derek Jeter.
Not Derek Jeter.
Chipper Jones.
Not Chipper Jones.
He's good.
Well, I'm just naming
Juan
players.
Pierre.
Oh, it was going to be my next guess.
Well, yeah, sorry. And then he had 12 hits in the series.
By the way, I think you should try to go look. We had Jonathan Mayo on yesterday, and I was asking him about Enrique Bradfield, and he said, well, if you believe in him, he's Kenny Lofton. And my face, if I need to see what my face looked like, because the moment I heard that, I was like, Was so obsessed with Kenny Lofton.
He was a great player.
God, he was one of my favorite baseball players of all time.
By the way, Keith Hernandez never drove in
100 runs, really?
for the Mets.
One of the first guy you mentioned did, though. I used him. He got me a good percentage.
Oh, Rusty Staub?
Rusty Staub.
I used Rusty, but now I wish I had saved Rusty for the Nationals Met.
Right,
Montreal
right.
Expo players.
Yep,
were
100%.
over
100%.
Julio. Man, I just gave it away.
Way to go.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Man.
Banner close of the show for Griffin.
Julio Rodriguez.
Guest bails,
now
can't get the
joins-
audio to work, gives away the answer. Oh, piss. Swiatek just got broken. Just forget it. I'm done.
You had Swiatek?
Yes, I have Swiatek. It's the first leg of my. I'm going to lose my parlay on the first leg.
Well, good thing you gave out another one. You can just
lose on the first set anyway.
Yeah.
He joins the. He is the first. He's the second player ever to have 20 home runs and 20 stolen bases in his first 2 career seasons. He joins.
Julio Rodriguez.
What Julio Rodriguez is who I was saying did
right,
that.
Is who
He's
joined?
the one who's accomplished
Yes,
it.
and he joins.
God, I'm not good.
Barry Bonds.
Not Barry Bonds. This. He also did it this year.
He also did it this year?
Yeah.
Wait, say it again. Say the numbers.
For 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases, first 2 seasons.
In both of his first 2 seasons.
Yeah, in both of his first 2 seasons.
So then it would be oh my God.
I almost started saying his name.
Jesus. Why am I blanking
I have
on
no
this?
idea who that
Oh, hang on a second.
I'm not giving it to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate you keeping it in your pants this time. 20 home runs last year and stolen bases last year and this year, and
they
was
were
their
rookie
first
last
2
year.
seasons.
Yes.
So it would have had to have been because it wasn't it obviously wasn't Acuna. Bobby Witt.
Bobby Witt. Jr.,
Bobby Witt.
yes.
Yeah, Bobby Witt.
2020 last year and this year, first 2 seasons. And finally, I think it was last week, Mookie Betts had another 3 extra base hit game. It was his 23rd game with 3 extra base hits before turning 31. It is tied for the most games in MLB history with 3 extra base hits before turning 31. Can you name top 8?
Jesus.
Willie Mays.
Willie Mays is right at my arbitrary cutoff. He was top 9. So
Ah.
no. Well, we can say top 9 now.
Okay, Willie Mays.
Alex Rodriguez.
Alex Rodriguez is in the top 8. He had 18 such games before he turned 31.
Pujols.
Jim Rice.
Albert Pujols is just outside. He would be
Jim
tied for 10th.
Rice.
Not Jim Rice.
Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds is not on this list either.
Ken Griffey Jr.
Ken Griffey Jr. Yes, is in fact he's tied with A-Rod.
Mike
18.
Schmidt.
Mike Schmidt not on the list.
Jeff Bagwell.
Not Jeff Bagwell.
Frank Thomas.
Not Frank Thomas.
These are
Ken Caminiti.
No, not Caminiti.
Did you watch? You didn't watch the Netflix thing this week with Victor Conti, did you?
No.
I didn't. I thought it was bad. I
He's the juicer.
He was the Balco guy, right? Like I just like they're
just
still letting him pretend like he doesn't know if Barry Bonds used steroids. They're showing him the thing. It says BLB on that. Well, I don't know. You're gonna have to talk to Greg Anderson. I'm like, what is the purpose of this?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here? If he was willing to just openly talk and tell, like, I whatever. The fact that like we're still pretending like there's some world in which it isn't common knowledge that Barry Bonds. Anyway,
Pete Rose.
Not Pete Rose.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good guess.
Ted Williams.
Not Ted Williams.
He went to war. Yeah, God, I always forget that. Stan Musial.
Stan Musial is also just outside the top 10, top 9 here.
This is a tough one.
This is a tough one. How about
Frank Robinson?
Not Frank Robinson.
Hank Aaron.
Not Hank Aaron.
So, boy, this is really a different type of player.
Should we be doing old-timey baseball names? Or
There's a couple on there,
How
yeah.
about Will Clark?
Not Will Clark.
Will Clark. So old-timey baseball names. Let's go. Duke Snyder.
Not Duke.
Mel Ott.
Not Mel.
I love Mel Ott. Rocky Calavito.
Not Rocky.
Eddie Matthews.
Not Eddie Matthews.
What are we trying to do?
3 extra base hits in a game.
23 times.
Yeah, so all these guys have done it 18
Ty
times.
Cobb.
Not Ty Cobb.
Tris Speaker.
Not Tris Speaker.
Nap LaJoy.
Not Nap LaJoy.
God damn it.
Willie McCovey.
No, not Willie McCovey.
Jimmy Fox.
Jimmy Fox is
Hey!
on the list.
Lou Brock.
3rd place on this list. Not Lou Brock.
Not Lou Brock?
There are more old-timey baseball
Wait a minute,
names?
Hold
There's two
on.
more.
Not Lou Brock?
Not Lou Brock.
Did we say Cap Anson?
Not Cap Anson.
I love naming old-timey baseball players.
These guys are more like really well known.
What do you mean? They're more
throughout
Al Rosen.
Not Al Rosen.
Well, okay, so are they really not old-timey? They're
Well,
more
they
like,
are old-timey.
Well, I don't know what you think. We got Jimmy
Yeah,
Fox.
we got Jimmy Fox.
Mickey Mantle.
Even older.
Okay, so that is old-timey then.
Jackie
Babe Ruth.
Jackie Robinson.
Babe Ruth.
Not Jackie Robinson, unfortunately. Yeah, Babe Ruth, though,
Lou
is on the list.
Gehrig.
Lou Gehrig is who Mookie Betts is tied with 23 games before turning 31.
Are those all the old-timey
Those
baseball
are all the
names?
old-timey guys, and we have
All right.
Well, if
two
Lou Gehrig
more.
did it, then Cal Ripken
Yeah,
did it.
right? He did everything better than Lou Gehrig.
Yeah, this list, there's a lot of Yankees on this list, which sucks.
All right, well, hang on.
Yeah.
There's two more, you
There's
said?
two more. They're no longer active, but they are modern players.
And are there more Yankees?
Yes. They've actually both
How
are.
could Derek Jeter possibly be
He's
on
not
this
on the
list?
list. He's not
all right.
on the list.
Two more.
He got non-extra base hits. Probably.
Somehow it's Aaron Judge already?
It is not Aaron Judge. Not yet.
He did it
I guess he'll be
23
31 soon.
times before the age of
31.
This is
He was a Yankee.
This is interesting.
Joe Pepitone.
Not Joe Pepitone. Too
Don
old.
Mattingly.
Not Don Mattingly. Too old.
Jason Giambi.
Too old.
Oh, so it's more modern.
Yeah, more modern.
Very modern. Mark Teixeira.
Mark Teixeira's on this list as well.
Yes.
18 games for Mark Teixeira.
How about Judge?
Not Aaron Judge yet.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think he'll make the list because he doesn't. I'm not sure how many he's at right now.
Giancarlo Stanton.
Not Stanton. They're not active.
They're not active, but they're very modern. Bernie Williams.
Not Bernie Williams.
Paul O'Neill.
Not Paul O'Neill.
Scott
More
Brocious.
modern.
Scott
More
Brocious.
modern. Bernie Williams and Paul O'Neill. Yankee. Why am I blanking here? Do we
His career kind of fell off after he left the Yankees.
career kind
Alfonso Soriano?
Not Alfonso Soriano. That's a good
career kind of fell off after he left the Yankees.
guess. Not really kind of. Pretty much did.
It really did fall off
Yes,
after
but
the
he was great with the Yankees.
When you tell me, I'm gonna. I know. With Curtis Granderson.
Close, not Curtis Granderson.
But that type
He's an
of
infielder.
player.
Yeah.
Infielder.
Not Willie Randolph.
Not Willie
You
Randolph.
said is more modern. All right, I'll kick myself, but go ahead.
Robinson Cano.
Oh, damn.
Robinson.
he didn't
Cano.
fall off.
I mean,
like
don't know. He wasn't great with Seattle.
Nah, he was still a pretty good player at that point. You made it seem like it totally fell off.
And that was the only one we missed?
Yes, Robinson Cano.
We named about 1,000 guys in the process.
Lou
to be
Gehrig,
fair.
Jimmy Fox, Babe Ruth,
I don't think I
Cano,
got
Teixeira,
one player.
A-Rod. You got Babe Ruth, didn't you? I don't know.
I don't know.
That was a little too difficult. It was too broad.
All right.
Know your extra base hits, Dan.
Here's what's coming up totally tubular-wise. Tubular is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. All right, you're going to have to remind me who you said is pitching for the Athletics because it's still not.
Luis Medina.
But for the whole weekend.
And then tomorrow is Ken Waldachuk.
Uh-huh.
And
Sunday, J.P. Sears.
Gyp
Sears. Okay. Tonight, 9:40 on Masson 2, Kyle Gibson for the Birds. Tomorrow, 9 o'clock on Masson 2, Cole Irvin. It's also on ESPN Plus in the rest of the country. And on Sunday, 4 o'clock on Masson 1, because the Nationals play the Little League Classic game on Sunday night.
On ESPN.
Yes. Kyle Bradish goes on Sunday.
By the way, Bowie home this weekend.
As well, yes.
A chance to see Jackson Holiday.
And they got Grateful Dead night tonight, and they have something else going on this weekend that I remember being excited about, but I've already forgotten what it was. Sorry, I can check.
Jackson Holiday.
They do have Jackson Holiday. That is true. The World Cup final is Sunday morning at 6 a.m. Spain and England on Fox. There's a third-place match tomorrow, Sweden, Australia, 4 a.m. on Fox. UFC 292, Aljamain Sterling, Sean O'Malley, 10 o'clock on Saturday night on ESPN Plus pay-per-view. Otherwise, not a lot going on this weekend. You can find it all at GlennClarkRadio.com. Anything non-sports-wise?
I wish I could say there was. Netflix is going to have Lego Disney Princess today. That's
right.
available now.
Why would you share that?
It's the thing that's out today.
Jesus.
Prime
you
Video
seen-
and Freevee has a movie called Puppy Love with Lucy Hale and Grant Gustin.
Have you seen the Yogi Berra movie?
I have not.
I've heard several people
Yes.
told me it's but you have to pay for it.
It's like on demand, right?
Okay.
Well, they only put it in theaters.
they
I
put
want
it
to
in
say like
theaters.
It ain't over.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
it's
think
like
that's what
called
it's called.
Yogi or something.
Well, I saw his daughter doing a lot of promotion
Yeah.
for it, and I was like, I would
'Cause
look
I
at that, but I'm not.
I heard
It was like
couple
in
people told me it was
I'm
really
sure it
good.
is.
Yeah, it was in some theaters like in June, and I think they've been doing like a slow
Well,
tour.
they did the similar thing with the Elvis comeback special. They put it in theaters for like a minute so they can qualify. In order to have a chance to win an Academy Award, you have to have been in theaters for at least like a day. So they put it in theaters for like a weekend and then make it available in different ways. But yeah, I don't think I would be interested in paying for it, but I do want to see it as well. It is called It Ain't Over, yeah.
Winning Time on HBO Sunday nights.
I'm a little nervous. Jeff Pearlman this week on Twitter has basically been saying the ratings are not good enough. We might not get to make a season 3 even if the strike ends. So please watch Winning Time. It's delightful. It's a fun show.
Stephen A. Smith's going to be on Celebrity Family Feud Sunday
I'm
night
good.
as well.
I'm good. I'll pass on all of that. All right, Stan the Fan, you'll be on with the boys tomorrow. Griffin, could you tell me what's going on at the Live Casino in
I
Hotel
will
Maryland?
tell you what's going on. The $25,000 Baccarat tournament is coming up. Do you have what it takes to be a champion? Try your hand in the that's 25 grand Baccarat tournament at Live Casino in Hotel Maryland on August 31st. Compete for your chance to be one of 6 players to take home a share of $25,000 with a guaranteed prize of $8,888 in cash. With a buy-in of just $50, this is an opportunity you do not want to miss. For more info, go to maryland.livecasinohotel.com/promotions. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgambling.help. That's mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right. Stan, you will be on with the boys tomorrow morning on the Bat Around?
Unless they've terminated me.
I believe that is still going to happen tomorrow morning, 10 to noon, with Paul and Zach for the
And
Bat
then
Around
I'll
talking
be
baseball.
on Monday at 4 with Ross and Luke Jackson, and Thursday at least at 7 o'clock with Bo Smolka, no Gary Stein, working perhaps to do another Zoom on Wednesday.
Very good. Very good. At Stan the Fan on Twitter is how you follow him. Thanks today to Matthew Etzel. Thanks also to Bo Smolka. We'll get it up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh, my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com.
Don't you want to thank Mr. Fuller from the Commanders?
Gonna pass. I take it personally, frankly. I think
Especially the part where they didn't notify us until
literally right as we were coming back from break. Not great. All right, thanks everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners. Visit Baltimore, Live Casino and Hotel Maryland, the Maryland 5-Star, Glory Days Grill, Dorchester County, the Bowie Bay Sox, Royal Farms, the Costas Inn, Superbook Sports, the Baltimore Orioles. By the way, Igor Swiatek actually broke right back and won the first set.
Good
God,
for
I was
you.
all worked up. I was all worked up like an idiot.
I was ready to cash out.
Yeah, Birdland Sports, Easy Pass MD, Washington County, and your local Toyota dealer, and buyatoyota.com, and the Maryland Cycling Classic. Thanks, of course, to Griffin, at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great weekend. Go Birds. Duke sucks.